Corey Kelly, a 38-year-old from Cookstown, Minnesota, was no stranger to the wilderness. An experienced hunter, he had ventured into the Red Lake Wilderness area countless times. This vast expanse, located near Four Towns, Minnesota, was a place that he knew like the back of his hand. But on October 16th, a hunting trip with his friend Jim Prude would change everything. Jim and Corey set out for a grouse hunting expedition. While Corey was well acquainted with the area, Jim was a newcomer. They were accompanied by Jim's loyal yellow lab, Sammy. However, upon reaching their destination, Jim realized they were out of gas. He decided to head to Four Towns to refuel, leaving Corey and Sammy behind. Corey, confident in his knowledge of the area, decided to proceed with the hunt. Hours turned into night, and when Jim returned, Corey was nowhere to be found. Neither was Sammy. Concerned, Jim honked his horns and flashed his lights, hoping to guide Corey back. But as the night wore on and a light snow began to fall, there was still no sign of him. The next day, two passerbys were informed of Corey's disappearance. They quickly alerted the authorities, who initiated a massive search operation. Helicopters, search teams, and even the best canine units in Minnesota were deployed. But days turned into weeks, and there was still no trace of Corey. On October 25th, a breakthrough came. Two hunters stumbled upon Sammy a few miles from the original campsite. The dog was dehydrated and exhausted, but alive. Strangely, Sammy had been consuming deer meat, and in an area abundant with water, his dehydration was puzzling. The search intensified. On October 28th, Corey's personal items, including his coveralls, a sweatshirt, and a shotgun shell, were discovered. But Corey himself remained elusive. The search had to be halted due to harsh winter conditions, but it resumed in April. In a baffling turn of events, Corey's body was found on April 28th, just 15 feet off the trail, concealed by 8-foot-tall grass. This was near the location where his belongings had been found. What's more perplexing was that area had been searched multiple times before. The official cause of death was hypothermia, but many questions remain unanswered. Why didn't Corey, an experienced woodsman, make a fire? Why didn't he use his cell phone to call for help? And where was his shotgun? The mystery of Corey Kelly's disappearance and subsequent death remains one of the most puzzling cases in Minnesota's history. An experienced hunter, armed and familiar with the terrain, vanished without a trace, only to be found months later in an area previously searched. The circumstances surrounding his disappearance continue to intrigue and baffle investigators, as well as hiking enthusiasts alike. Now, we're diving deep into the forests of Santa Fe, New Mexico, to unravel a baffling tale that has left many scratching their heads. If you're someone who loves the thrill of the hunt, both literally and figuratively, then today's story is just for you. So get comfortable and let's journey together into the unknown. In the late 1980s, Melvin Nadell, a 61-year-old man originally from Brooklyn, New York, had made Santa Fe his home. Having moved there in the early 90s with his family, Melvin, or Mel as his friends called him, had embraced the southwestern lifestyle. A former jewelry store owner in Brooklyn, Melvin had transitioned into a fitness enthusiast in Santa Fe, even opening his own Pilates studio. With a first-degree black belt in Taekwondo, Melvin was not someone to be trifled with, despite his modest stature. But on April 21st, 1988, Melvin's life took a mysterious turn. Along with two friends, he ventured into the Santa Fe National Park, specifically the Pecos Mountains and Elk Mountain ranges, for a bow hunting trip. Though he had a minor knee injury, his spirit was undeterred. Melvin was well prepared, carrying not only his bow, but also a .44 caliber pistol for protection against potential predators. The day seemed like any other, with the trio setting up camp and preparing for the hunt. Melvin, ever the cautious one, especially after a previous incident where he had got lost, informed his friends he'd set up a blind just 50 to 150 yards down a well-trodden trail. But as the hours trickled by, Melvin never returned. A frantic search ensued. Local authorities, state police, canine units, and even horseback riders scoured the area. The dogs managed to trace Melvin's scent up to the 50-yard mark, but then, inexplicably, it vanished. No signs of a struggle, no equipment, and no Melvin. Several theories emerged. Did a mountain lion attack him? But there would have been signs of a struggle. Did he stumble upon something sinister? Perhaps a clandestine operation in the woods? But then, why was there no sound or no evidence? Melvin's family, especially his daughter Kristen and wife Edna, were left in agonizing suspense. Months turned into years, and the mystery of Melvin Nadel's disappearance remains unsolved. His family eventually had him declared legally dead, but the questions linger. Where did Melvin go? What happened on that fateful day in the Pecos Mountains? To my listeners, remember to stay safe when venturing into the wilderness. Nature, as beautiful as it is, holds many mysteries, some of which we may never unravel. Thank you for joining us on this story today. If you have any insights or theories about Melvin's case, we'd love to hear them. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more tales of the unexplained. In 2015, a baffling disappearance occurred that remains unsolved to this day. The story revolves around a man named Frederick Drummond, affectionately known as Fritz by those close to him. Picture this: a serene 178-acre farm in Schuylerville, New York, a quaint town north of Albany. This was where Fred and his beloved wife, Ruth, chose to spend their golden years. And why not? With its proximity to the picturesque Green Mountains of Vermont and the infamous Bennington Triangle, it was a haven for nature lovers like them. Fred, at 68 years old, was the epitome of a content retiree. He had served Schuylerville's city council for 14 years, earning the respect and admiration of his community. His days were filled with walks on his vast property, observing wildlife and reminiscing by the creek. An avid hunter, he was no stranger to the wilderness and its ways. However, on November 24th, 2015, a day that started like any other, it took a mysterious turn. Ruth, after sharing a morning coffee with Fred, left for a grandparents' breakfast event. Fred, choosing to stay behind, was last seen heading towards their barn. But when Ruth returned around 2 p.m., Fred was nowhere to be found. All of his belongings, including his cell phone and car keys, were right where he had left them. The community rallied together, launching an extensive search that spanned over 1,200 acres. Helicopters, canine units, and over 200 volunteers combed every inch of the area. But Fred seemed to have vanished into thin air. No tracks, no clues, no sign of a struggle. It was as if Earth had just swallowed him whole. What makes this case even more intriguing is its proximity to the Bennington Triangle, an area notorious for mysterious disappearances. Could there be a connection? Or did Fred, a man well acquainted with his surroundings, simply just lose his way? As days turned into weeks and weeks into months, hope began to wane. Yet the question remained, what happened to Fred Drummond? Did he meet with an accident? Was there foul play? Or did he, for reasons unknown, choose to disappear? 8 years have passed since that fateful day, and the mystery of Fred's disappearance remains unsolved. His story serves as a chilling reminder of the unpredictability of nature and the mysteries it holds. To my listeners who have braved the wild, always remember to stay safe, stay vigilant, and never underestimate the power of the unknown. And to Fred, wherever you are, we hope you found peace. Thank you for joining us today. If you have any theories or insights about Fred's case, please share them in the comments below. And if you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out. Until next time, keep exploring and stay curious. Now we'll journey back to the early 1990s to the rugged terrains of Mount Marcy, New York. A tale of mystery, intrigue, and an unexplained disappearance awaits. On October 9th, 1993, Thomas James Carlton, a 44-year-old psychologist, embarked on what seemed like a routine hiking trip. A resident of New York, Thomas was no stranger to the great outdoors. His passion for hiking was well known among his peers, and he often sought solace in the embrace of nature, especially given the high-stress nature of his job. Working with the New York Department of Corrections, dealing with the mentally ill inmates of the state prison system was no easy task, but nature was his refuge. Thomas was not just any hiker, he was an experienced one. A member of the Adirondack Mountain Hiking Club and Civil Air Patrol, he was well versed with terrains and trails in the region. On this particular day, he informed his wife, Dia, of his plans to hike and camp on Mount Marcy. He packed light, opting to use state-provided shelters instead of carrying a tent. The morning was crisp and clear as Thomas set off. His teal backpack distinguished him from the other hikers, but as days turned into nights and Thomas didn't return, worry began to set in. Dia, alarmed by her husband's prolonged absence, alerted the authorities. Given Thomas's reputation and connections within the law enforcement community, his disappearance triggered an extensive search operation. Helicopters, K-9 units, and hundreds of volunteers combed the vast expanse of Mount Marcy. The search spanned a staggering 100 square miles, covering 256 miles of maintained trails and countless off-road terrains. In their quest, the searchers stumbled upon trail logbooks, which hikers often sign as they pass through. 2 entries caught their attention. 2 fellow hikers had interacted with Thomas and distinctly remembered his teal backpack. They mentioned that Thomas had expressed his intention to continue on the Indian Pass Trail. But as the search intensified, nature threw a curveball. Temperatures plummeted, and the higher altitudes of Mount Marcy witnessed snowfall. The rugged terrains of Indian Pass became even more treacherous, yet the search pressed on, driven by hope and determination. A renowned bloodhound, known for its impeccable tracking skills, was brought in. On 3 separate occasions, the dog managed to pick up Thomas's scent, leading the searchers through challenging terrains. But each time, the trail went cold at the same spot, a particularly rugged area that seemed almost impassable. As days turned into weeks, no trace of Thomas James Carlton was ever found. His teal backpack, his belongings, and most importantly Thomas himself, seemed to have vanished into thin air. Theories began to circulate. Did Thomas encounter a wild animal? Did he lose his way and succumb to the elements? Or was there a more sinister explanation? The fact that many had gone missing in the vicinity of Mount Marcy in the past only added to the mystery. To this day, the disappearance of Thomas James Carlton remains one of the most baffling cases in hiking mysteries. No evidence, no clues, just a trail that abruptly ends. What do you think happened to Thomas? Was it a tragic accident, or is there more to the story than meets the eye? Share your theories and thoughts in the comments below. Our story begins on a cold winter day in February 1978, unfolding around a 23-year-old university student named Stephen Kubacki. He attended Hope College in Holland, Michigan, near the southeastern shore of Lake Michigan. Known for his intelligence, Kubacki was a bit more free-spirited than his peers at the conservative Christian university, and he was set to graduate in the upcoming spring. His love for the outdoors led him to embark on a solo cross-country ski trip near the town of Saugatek. The following day, local snowmobilers found Kubacki's skis and backpack abandoned in the snow. A 200-yard trail of footprints led investigators from the edge of the lake to where they abruptly ended. Steve Kubacki had vanished without a trace. With no further clues, investigators were forced to conclude that he had fallen through the ice and met his tragic end. The story takes a surreal turn 15 months later on May 5th, 1979. Stephen Kubacki reappeared in Pittsfield, Massachusetts, over 700 miles due east from where he had disappeared. He awoke in a grassy knoll wearing unfamiliar clothes and with a backpack filled with maps and hitchhiking signs from cities that he didn't remember visiting. He had new glasses, a t-shirt from a marathon in Wisconsin, and $40 cash. Yet he had no memory of the previous 14 and a half months. Despite the bewildering circumstances. Kubaki insisted he was in a sound mental state, both at the time of his disappearance and upon his return. He could remember feeling cold and scared before he vanished, but what happened during his absence remains a mystery, even to him. In the following years, Kubaki led a quiet life. He received his bachelor's degree from Hope College and relocated to the Pacific Northwest. There, he established his career as a psychologist and even authored a book called Meta-Mathematical Foundations of Existence, Gödel, Quantum, God, and Beyond. Yet he consistently avoided discussing his disappearance with both the media or the public. The mystery of Stephen Kubaki's disappearance and return has intrigued many, especially those interested in the paranormal. His story is often discussed in relation to the Lake Michigan Triangle, an area known for its unexplained phenomena, including air disasters, shipwrecks, and other strange disappearances, and this added another layer to the enigma. Kubaki once mentioned his intention to retrace his steps and uncover what happened during his lost time. Whether he pursued this or what might he have found remains a secret he keeps to this day. We are left with the enigma of Stephen Kubaki, a tale of a simple ski trip that transformed into a 15-month mystery, challenging our understanding of reality and leaving us with far more questions than answers.
This is where you come in, my fellow seekers of the unknown. I invite you to ponder this mystery. Share your insights, interpretations, and theories in the comments below.
There have been numerous strange and inexplicable disappearances and deaths in the remote wilderness areas around the world. These places are often treacherous and unforgiving, making them difficult for humans to navigate. Despite the inherent dangers of venturing into these wilds, there are cases where strange clues and eerie circumstances seem to be present. One of these unusual cases occurred in Crater Lake National Park in Oregon. Crater Lake National Park is located in Klamath County and is part of the majestic Cascade Range of southwest Oregon. The area is characterized by sprawling forests, fields of wildflowers, tranquil meadows, and towering cliffs and peaks. The air at Crater Lake is incredibly clean and clear, making it an incredibly beautiful location. The centerpiece of the park is Crater Lake, a strikingly beautiful body of water that is a deep shade of azure blue. Crater Lake covers an area of 21 square miles and has a maximum depth of 1,949 feet, making it the deepest lake in the United States and the third deepest lake in the world based on average depth. It is a caldera lake that was formed by Mount Mazama, a 12,000-foot tall volcano that erupted and collapsed approximately 7,700 years ago, forming the lake. Despite its beauty, the lake has been the scene of many unexplained and strange disappearances. A man vanished in the wilderness of Crater Lake National Park, leaving behind only strange clues and a bizarre set of remains that defy explanation. The circumstances surrounding his disappearance and subsequent discovery has led many to believe that there is something otherworldly or inexplicable at work in this remote, beautiful wilderness area. In 1975, Charles McCullough, a 19-year-old aspiring photographer, was drawn to the majestic Crater Lake National Park, which was covered in snow at the time. McCullough left his home in Virginia in 1974 to embark on a cross-country photography expedition, traveling by bus and stopping at places along the way to go hiking, have adventures, and take pictures for a photographic travel journal. He arrived in Eugene, Oregon in January 1975, where he stayed with a friend for a few weeks. During this time, he planned to take a 2-day trip to the lake to do some winter photography work. He packed up his equipment and headed out on his own. Despite the harsh winter conditions, McCullough was well prepared for his journey, and with a camera in his hand, he set out into the wilderness. It was a normal thing for the intrepid adventurer and photographer to do, so his friend thought nothing of it when Charles said he'd be back in a few days. However, when 2 days came and went with no sign of Charles, his friend assumed that he had decided to extend his trip, but when another day passed with no sign of him, authorities were notified. Authorities found witnesses who had seen the man in the Diamond Lake area, which is about 45 minutes by car from Crater Lake. It is believed that he had continued his trip from there and had arrived safely at the lake. However, other witnesses had claimed that Charles had headed out hiking along the North Road, which was odd since there had been about 5 foot of snow along that route at the time. It was thought that he might have changed trails after encountering the snow, but no one knew for sure, and there was no sign of him or his campsite in the area. Despite the exhaustive efforts from authorities and the tireless work of Charles's father, who flew out to aid in the search effort and camped out on the shore of the lake for the entire summer, not a single trace of the missing man was turned up at this time. The search, which grew to involve the FBI, was hampered by immersed drifts of snow, some of which were over 12 feet deep. Even after the snow melted, it seemed that if the forest had just swallowed Charles up, leaving no clues behind. Despite the extensive search efforts, no trace of Charles or his campsite was found. The lack of evidence sparked speculation of his disappearance, ranging from the possibility of him changing his plans and leaving the park on his own to being a victim of foul play. Charles's friends and family expected foul play, and the involvement of the FBI seemed to confirm their suspicions. It was highly unusual for the FBI to come involved in a missing persons case without the suspicion of foul play. The FBI's involvement was so peculiar that one of Charles's friends involved in the search wrote to then Senator William L. Squat to inquire about it. The lack of any evidence caused speculation that Charles may have run off to start a new life somewhere. However, family and friends insisted that he would never have done this. Law enforcement seemed to embrace the idea that he had simply gotten lost and died out in the wilderness. Another theory was that he had been kidnapped or even murdered. Charles's friends and family suspected that he had been the victim of some sort of foul play, which would explain the FBI's involvement, although they made no public statement to this effect. Authorities shied away from the idea of foul play because there was no evidence to support it. Their main theories were that he had run off or had suffered some sort of misadventure out in the wilderness. In the meantime, there was no sign of Charles, no new leads, and it was as if he had just vanished off the face of the earth. It wasn't until the next year, in October 1976, that a pair of hikers found a battered, torn-up backpack down in a remote canyon located 12 miles from where Charles had been supposedly camped out. The hikers brought the backpack to a ranger station, and within a side pocket they found a set of keys belonging to a Volkswagen, which was the type of car Charles had owned. Sensing a break in the cold case had been found, rangers ran a comparison with a photocopy of Charles' actual car key and found it was a perfect match. A patrol was immediately sent out on horseback to the area where the backpack had been found, near a place called Briery Creek. It was not long before human remains were found near the creek, and although it seemed like the final piece of the puzzle, things would only get stranger from here. Upon a log in the vicinity, a pair of jeans was discovered by a search party. Surprisingly, the jeans were in good condition despite being exposed to the elements for an extended period. However, there were no traces of a shirt, coat, or boots nearby. Inside the socks protruding from the jeans, broken toe bones were discovered. The jeans also contained nothing but a broken shin bone. Adding to the mystery, the belt on the jeans were unbuckled and the buttons were unfastened, indicating that the man may have removed them in the cold. Strangely, the rest of the body was nowhere to be found, and a ranger had described it if the man had just melted away. The search team had also found a crown of a skull and a few bone fragments located about 12 feet from the jeans. Despite a comprehensive search of the area, no additional remains of Charles were discovered, and all of his clothing, except for his jeans and socks, were missing. None of Charles's personal belongings, such as his wallet or camera, were found in the area either. The condition of Charles McCullers' remains were not only bizarre, but also raised many questions regarding how he ended up in that location. The area was remote and rugged, making it almost impossible to access, especially during the deep drifts of snow at the time of his disappearance. The fact that he was able to hike 12 miles away from his camp on foot, without shoes on, in such conditions, was baffling. Furthermore, it was puzzling as to why he would have gone to that location in the first place. The missing clothing only added to the mystery. Authorities attributed the missing clothing to a phenomenon called paradoxical undressing, where someone with hypothermia will feel hot and remove their clothes in an attempt to cool off in freezing conditions. However, this theory did not explain the condition of his remains in this completely bizarre state. Authorities ruled Charles McCullers' death as natural, stating that his body had been ravaged by wildlife after his death. However, his family did not accept this explanation. His brother, Steve, expressed his disbelief in the authorities' ruling, saying that the broken-off shin bone might tell a different story, one of foul play. Steve believed that Charles may have hitchhiked a ride with someone that stole his camera equipment, money, and may have shot him. and disposed of his body in the most remote part of Crater Lake, hoping that animals would destroy the evidence by spring. The mysterious disappearance and death of Charles McCullough remains unsolved to this day, leaving his friends and family with unanswered questions and lingering suspicions. Despite the odd circumstances of his remains being found miles away from his campsite and in a state of extreme decomposition, authorities closed the case, declaring it to be a death of exposure to the elements. The story highlights the need for thorough investigation and the need to investigate all possible explanations, including foul play. It also emphasizes the need for effective communication between law enforcement agencies and families of missing persons. Finally, it underscores the value of community involvement and the tireless efforts of volunteers and search and rescue operations. Charles McCullough's story serves as a cautionary tale for hikers and outdoor enthusiasts. It is also important to inform someone of your plans, including your intended route and expected time of return, and any alternate plans in case of an emergency. This information can be shared with family, friends, park rangers, or other authorities. Hikers should also be aware of the signs and symptoms of hypothermia, especially in the high-altitude terrain. If you've enjoyed this content from a universe of mystery, please subscribe, like, and share to the channel. It really helps me out, and it'll allow me to continue to bring mysterious stories to you. In today's story, we will be discussing the mysterious disappearance of Gail Stewart, a 64-year-old Reno, Nevada woman who went missing on Valentine's Day, February 14th of 2022. Gail Stewart had been missing since 10 a.m. when her son could not get in touch with her and decided to call some friends to help locate the missing woman. One of her son's friends had a feeling that Stewart was in a certain area and decided to ascend a hiking trail in the Coughlin Range outside of Reno. Authorities described this area as a fairly common area for local hikers with numerous dirt roads to walk along. However, Stewart was discovered on the side of a steep slope, an area where hikers typically don't venture. It remains unclear how the 64-year-old ended up on the dangerous cliff, but it's believed she may have fallen down a slope before grabbing onto a tree and clinging to it. In a dramatic twist, a small search party of friends and family members found her roughly 300 to 400 feet from the road. A rescue team, which consisted of about 28 people, arrived at about 9:15 p.m. that evening and spent roughly 30 minutes pulling Stewart to safety. At the time of her rescue, Stewart was unresponsive and suffering from hypothermia. Officials also reported that she was missing a shoe and had sustained considerable trauma to her legs, although they did not elaborate on the extent of her injuries. Fire Chief Seth Williams of the Reno Fire Department referred to Stewart's rescue as a miracle story, and he shared that the son had called up some friends to help search for her, and one of them decided to head off the cliff, thinking she might have fallen down there. It was then that they found her clinging to a tree. The last thing she said before falling silent was, "Help."
For a small department, run roughly 50,000 calls a year, and this one piqued my interest, so I started heading that way. Arrived on scene with a number of family members and people who had been searching for her, and got intel at that point in time she'd been missing for roughly 12 hours. And where she was hiking was a relatively common hiking area, although where she was found was a very unusual area, very steep, something you might consider similar to a double diamond ski run. And that's when we activated our urban search and rescue team, and you can see in the picture we had over 20 firefighters on scene. Paramedics made contact with the patient. She was in pretty bad shape. As the story says, she was clinging to a tree. The bystanders had given her a bunch of blankets, but she'd almost completely stopped shivering, which is a bad sign in terms of hypothermia. So our paramedics on scene, as well as a local ambulance company, started treating her. She had quite a bit of trauma to her lower legs, missing one of her shoes, so she'd been fighting back for a while. The amazing part, as I said, the friend's son, he said he decided just to go look down this hill for no real reason, hollered out and heard her say help, and that was the last word she said. She was effectively catatonic after that, so it's really close. And for firefighters, we go on way too many recoveries. So to have a successful thing where you get to rescue somebody who is in bad shape, get him quickly to the ambulance, get him warmed up. From the time we made contact with the patient to having her in the back of the ambulance was just over a half hour. So it was successful in that terms. And I'm told that she's made a full recovery and released from the hospital. And for a pretty dangerous situation, in fact, one of our firefighters fell because it was so steep and broke his thumb. So,
However, after a happy ending, this case would only get more mysterious. Stewart again was reporting missing exactly 1 month to the day on March 14th since her previous disappearance. The circumstances of her vanishing were odd, and the timing was eerie. Unlike her first disappearance, Stewart would not be found within hours this time around. Stewart was last seen in the Bypass Bridge parking area near the Hoover Dam, a 470-mile drive from her Reno, Nevada home. It seemed as though she was embarking on a nature walk, with park officials stating that she had gone to the area to take photos. Unfortunately, she disappeared again and never made it back to her vehicle. Tragically, there have been no updates on Stewart's whereabouts following her latest disappearance. Officials reported that she was last seen wearing a black long-sleeve shirt, black leggings, and black shoes. However, she did not have her cell phone or any identification with her at the time. Stewart is described as a 5-foot, 8-inch woman and weighing approximately 125 pounds. With both disappearances having taken place within such a short time frame, the search for Stewart has become a pressing concern for her friends, family, and authorities. They are appealing to the public for any information that could help locate her. In the meantime, the National Park Service Investigative Services Branch has set up a tip line for anyone with information related to Stewart's disappearance. They are asking individuals to contact them at 1-888-653-0009. As the search for Gail Stewart continues, her loved ones remain hopeful that she will be found safe and sound, just as she was during her first disappearance. The fact that she was found alive after her first ordeal is seen as nothing short of a miracle, and they are hoping for another positive outcome with this disappearance also. The story of Gail Stewart's 2 disappearances is a mystery that has captured the attention of both the local community and the wider public. While the search for her continues, it serves as a reminder for everyone to remain vigilant and aware of their surroundings, especially when venturing into remote areas. It also highlights the importance of carrying identification and a cell phone at all times. Welcome back to a universe of mystery. Today we're going to delve into the story of Aaron Hedges, a 38-year-old hunter that went missing outside of the Crazy Mountains in Montana. Now, Aaron grew up in this area of the country, out west. He was an avid hunter. He hunted this area his entire life. So much so that from years prior, he had caches hidden all over the mountains. That way, if he ever needed any supplies on a future hunting trip, he could go and uncover one of the caches and have what he needed, so he didn't have to end his trip early. Aaron Hedges was last seen on September 5th, 2014. Him and 2 of his hunting friends decided to go on a hunting trip to hunt elk right outside the Crazy Mountains. The Crazy Mountains get their name, or the Crazies for short, from a lore story about a woman whose entire family was killed by Indians, and she went after them with one of their own tomahawk axes and ran into the mountains, never to be seen again. So Aaron and his 2 buddies head up into the mountains, and they have to, it's bow hunting season at the time, so they all have to have bows with them, although they did have some guns for their own protection. Aaron and his 2 buddies had a plan. They were going to hike to a place called Campfire Lake. Now, you can't get close to this lake by vehicle. You can get to like the base of the Crazy Mountains by vehicle, but in order to get to this Campfire Lake where they were going to set up a base camp and stay for around 7 days hunting elk, it's a good ways hike. So what they did was, instead of having to carry all their gear on their person, they had 2 horses and a mule to carry their gear for them. Now, a couple miles into this hike, something spooked the animals. The horses went crazy, the mule went crazy, and the mule actually got away and ran off, spilling most of Aaron's gear all over the place. So now they got to stop, try and collect and salvage what kind of gear that they have, but Aaron was missing gear. But they figured this be no big deal because there were caches that they had hidden all over the place. So their plan was to just continue on with the hike to Campfire Lake, get a base camp set up. The other guys had extra supplies, so supplies weren't going to be a big deal right off the bat, and they would be able to eventually uncover one of these caches and have extra supplies. So Aaron and his buddies get to Campfire Lake, and the weather is beautiful. All the reports say it was about 50 degrees, sunny. You couldn't just ask for any better hiking or hunting weather. So they get to the base camp, they get the base camp set up, and they stay there for 2 days. Aaron doesn't have a sleeping bag, So he gets tired of having to sleep next to the fire and getting cold at night. So he decides he's going to go find one of his caches. Around 10 a.m. the next morning, Aaron leaves his buddy and says he's going to hike up to a place called Sunlight Lake to retrieve one of his caches that he had up there. Now, he had a cell phone, a gun, and they had walkie-talkies. On the way to Sunlight Lake, there's a fork in the trail, and the trail is really well marked, really worn. It's really hard to get lost on this trail. So Aaron goes off to try and find one of these caches, and that was at 10 in the morning. So around 5 p.m., his buddies still hadn't heard from him, hadn't seen him, and they started to wonder where he was and if he was okay. And they did have these walkie-talkies that are hooked through a GPS system. So when you walkie somebody, and they respond, it sends the actual coordinates of where the person is responding from to the other walkie-talkie and vice versa. So it's really kind of hard to get lost this way because they know exactly where each other are. However, what Aaron was saying, his buddies found really hard to understand. They described it as like garble, talking nonsense. They couldn't really understand what he was saying, but they did hear him and they knew he was still alive and they had his coordinates. But what gets really weird is the coordinates that they were sent on the walkie-talkie showed that he was going the wrong direction. He had taken the wrong fork in the road, and somebody with Aaron's outdoor experience, that seemed like a real trivial mistake for an experienced outdoorsman to make. So they became concerned. So they waited another few hours, and later that night, before they were getting ready to go to bed, they tried to radio Aaron again. However, this time there was no response on the radio. So now his buddies wake up the next day, still no sign of Aaron, and now they could tell the weather is starting to shift. There's a bad snowstorm about to move in, but they decide, let's give him another day in case he comes wandering in and shows up with his gear, and then they could all leave together. So they wait around another day, and now the snowstorm starts to hit, and basically Aaron's buddies were forced to pack up and leave because they just weren't prepared for that kind of weather, and they weren't able to survive properly out there on their own in a huge hellacious snowstorm. His buddies get off the mountain, and over the next 12 to 24 hours, almost 2 feet of snow gets dumped on this mountain. So now they really begin to worry, and they go and they contact the authorities to get started a search and rescue mission. So now the way these mountains are set up, 2 counties were actually involved in the search and rescue. And they included search and rescue teams, helicopters, and scent dogs to try and pick up a scent or locate his tracks. The search team searched for 2 days. And while one of the teams is coming back from the search area, a place that had already been searched, they come across a campfire. And at this campfire location, they found his camelback and his boots, which were neatly stacked right next to the campfire, and also a pack of cigarettes that were in the campfire that was Aaron's brand. And another weird thing that they found was in the campfire, his backpack straps, not his backpack itself, but the straps that you strap the backpack around your front side with, were laying about halfway in the campfire, and they were about halfway burnt. And perhaps the weirdest thing of all, because it had been snowing, there were no tracks to or from this location where the campfire was. No footprints, no trail, no anything. It was as if somebody had just picked Aaron up out of the wilderness and he just vanished. The search teams included 60 individual searchers, 2 helicopters with thermal imaging, and they brought in 20 different canine search and rescue teams to try and pick up a scent or trail or anything about Aaron, and they couldn't find anything. Now, let's fast forward 9 months later. Winter's over, all the snowstorms have passed, and there was a rancher, and the way the crazy mountains are set up is it's mostly surrounded by private property, private ranches, farms, things like that. So 9 months later, a rancher is out just inspecting his farm. He's about a mile away from his ranch, checking on some fences, where he sees that someone, a hunter, had left his backpack. So he wanders over, just thinking a hunter had just left it there, and he picks it up and looks inside of it. He found Aaron's ID, a .44 caliber pistol, some nutrition bars, water, and other basic supplies. And the way he found the backpack was weird because it was like it was gently placed next to the tree, like somebody had gone out of their way and took care in actually placing this backpack. It hadn't looked like it had been there all winter through the elements. It looked brand new, sitting next to a tree. Close to where they found the backpack, they also find a thermostat, which was Aaron's, and an energy drink that was about half drank, sitting next to the thermostat on a stump. Now this was really weird because the location they found this thermostat in, you could physically see down the mountain, a ranch, a creek, everything you needed to get help. If he was truly lost in the wilderness, looking and needing help, help was right there, about a mile away. He could see it with his own eyes. Why would he choose to sit there and stare at it from a mile-long distance and sip on an energy drink? So after finding his backpack, these ranchers, they find no trace of Aaron himself, just some of his possessions, his ID, his pistol. Now fast forward 23 months later, almost 2 years later, that same group of ranchers, they were up doing more maintenance on their ranches. They were on horseback going through the trails. And as they're riding, one of them looks over and he spots a skull sitting underneath a tree. And now a weird thing about this was the skull was in almost perfect condition. There was no obvious signs of trauma. It was just sitting there, white, glowing white, like it hadn't been sitting there for almost 2 years in the elements, in the weather. So the ranchers, after finding the skull, the ranchers contact the local authorities, the sheriff's department, and the sheriffs come up to the location and they end up finding a few of his ribs, his pelvis, and a femur bone. They also found his coat with his cell phone in it, sitting not too far from where the bones were located. They never found his pants, socks, or any other shoes, which was weird because there was no way that Aaron could have hiked miles barefoot in that terrain. The mountains are full of jagged rocks. There is absolutely no way you can make that trip barefoot. Because if you remember, his boots were already found neatly placed by that campfire location that was a couple miles away. Now the coroner report on his death certificate states that he succumbed to hypothermia and exposure to the elements. And sometimes with hypothermia, there's something that's called paradoxical undressing, where people that are in severe stages of hypothermia, they start to feel like they're burning on the inside, and they mistake the cold for heat, and they start to take clothes off, hoping to try and cool off. But this, of course, just makes things worse and speeds up the hypothermic process. Now, about his boots, it is not uncommon for hunters to carry 2 sets of shoes, because when you're trekking through the wilderness, you do need a pair of heavy boots to really protect your feet. But if you come across an animal and you're going to hunt for game and possibly stalk, it has been known that hunters will switch their shoes to make it more quiet. They'll carry a lighter pair of shoes so that when they are stalking the animal, that they don't make as much noise. So this could explain why his boots were found a couple miles away. Maybe he came across an elk and he had his bow and it was bow hunting season. Maybe he didn't have a good shot, so he decided to stalk the elk in his other pair of shoes for a couple miles, which could explain why his body ended up miles away from where his boots were found. However, it doesn't explain why he was within a mile of help that he could physically see with his own eyes, why he didn't go one more extra mile to seek help. Instead, he sat there and drank half an energy drink. This is definitely one of the stranger stories I've done that leaves so many questions unanswered. I've tried to wrap my head around all the weird and anomalous parts of this story, but I have no answers. What do you think happened to Aaron? Let me know in the comments below. The story of Aaron Hedges, the well-regarded hunter went missing in the crazy mountains in 2014, highlights the challenges of search and rescue in remote and rugged terrain. Despite the extensive search efforts, the mystery of what happened to Hedges remains unsolved. One of the key lessons from the Aaron Hedges story is the importance of being prepared when venturing into the backcountry. Hedges reportedly became separated from his hunting companions on purpose and was unable to find his way back to the base camp. It's a reminder that even the most experienced outdoorsmen can find themselves in dangerous situations, and that having the right equipment, knowledge, and survival skills can make all the difference between life or death. Another lesson is the importance of prompt reporting in a missing persons case. In Hedges' case, there was a delay in reporting of his disappearance, which may have hampered search efforts. In general, it's crucial to report a missing person as soon as possible, so that search and rescue teams can begin their efforts before crucial evidence is lost or weather conditions worsen. Finally, the Aaron Hedges story underscores the difficulty of the search and rescue operations in remote and rugged terrain. Even with extensive resources and expertise, it can be incredibly challenging to locate a missing person in these areas. It's a reminder of the need for continued investment in search and rescue capabilities and technology, and for the importance of supporting the dedicated professionals who work tirelessly to find missing people and bring them home to their loved ones. If you've enjoyed this content, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe so I can continue to bring you these mysterious stories. Welcome back to a universe of mystery. Today, we'll dive into the story of James McGrogan, a man who went missing in Vail, Colorado. On March 14, 2014, James McGrogan, a 39-year-old emergency room doctor, disappeared while visiting Vail, a small town at the base of Vail Mountain in the center of a large ski resort in Colorado's White River National Forest. McGrogan had been hiking with a group of friends when his friends decided to stop for a break. James didn't want to stop, so he decided to keep going alone, saying he'd meet up with his friends later in the day. Despite an extensive search and rescue operation, his body was not found until April 3, 2014, near Booth Falls in the Vail area. It is believed that he likely died from injuries sustained in a fall while hiking, but the exact circumstances surrounding his death remain unknown. The tragic incident left his family and friends wondering whether it was just misadventure, bad luck, or something else. It's important to note McGrogan was an experienced outdoorsman who loved hiking and exploring the mountains. On the morning of March 14, 2014, at about 8:30 a.m., Jim and 3 hiking companions left on a 9-mile hike to the Eastman Hut and beyond to Camp Hale. The camp is a collection of huts deep in the mountains to serve as a temporary shelters for hikers or campers. This site was originally built in the 1940s as the home of the 10th Mountain Division and a mountain warfare training area. At the time, there was a lot of snow in the area, several feet deep in some places. There are 2 main routes from the Vail area to the Eastman Hut, one via Spraddle Creek and a more westerly route via Red Sandstone Creek. Both of these trails were used heavily and were well marked with compacted snow. The hike itself was a 9-mile trail through steep and treacherous wooded terrain. The hut is not considered easy to reach. Although this was a challenging hike, McGrogan and company were experienced with the outdoors and well prepared. McGrogan himself carried with him a cell phone, basic medical supplies, a sleeping bag, an avalanche beacon, a GPS, warm clothing, and plenty of food and water. About 10 a.m., with the hikers still about 5 miles from the hut, the group stopped to rest. According to his companions, Jim decided to hike on ahead of the party, and they expected to catch up with him along the way. After Jim left the others behind to hike alone, he vanished. With the rest of the group reaching the Eastman Hut, it was late afternoon on March 14th. There was no sign at all of McGrogan. He was never seen alive again. By 5:30 p.m., the hikers had notified the Vail Department of Public Safety and subsequently the Eagle Valley Sheriff's Department. A rescue operation was started over an 18-square-mile area. McGrogan was well equipped, so authorities were not too concerned. He had food, water, and warm clothing, all the essentials needed to survive. He was also carrying a split snowboard, a snowboard that divides lengthwise, plus skins and other equipment from Confluence Kayaks in Denver, and was wearing the boots that went with the board. McGrogan's cell phone pinged once the day he was missing, but after that it went dead. Over the next 3 days, teams of searcher on foot, snowmobile, and 3 helicopters from the National Guard high-altitude aviation training site based near Gypsum, Colorado, searched the area. But by Tuesday, March 18th, bad weather forced the search to be suspended. Crews had spent a combined 1,000 hours searching for McGrogan. A 5-day search failed to find any sign of him despite snow in the area, which would have indicated if someone was hiking or skiing off the trail. 20 days later, McGrogan's body was found by a group of backcountry skiers about 4.5 miles from the trail on April 3, 2014, near the Booth Falls area. The reporting party told authorities that he and 2 others were skiing the Booth Falls area when they located the dead body in an ice fall below Booth Falls. He was found wearing his helmet, no coat, no gloves, and very strangely with no boots. In his backpack, his cell phone was discovered, and in this area there appeared to be active cellular reception. Jim's snowboard was also found nearby, but his boots were never located. On April 7, 2014, Eagle County Coroner Kara Bettis said that James McGrogan died of multiple injuries, including head trauma and to the left side of his chest. He also had a broken femur, and his death was ruled an accident. What happened to Dr. Jim McGrogan? He hiked 12 to 14 miles across the backcountry in deep snow, and the snow was up to 8 feet in some places, and apparently lost his boots. Perhaps he succumbed to hypothermia and began to paradoxically undress. Why didn't he use his cell phone or GPS? Both were fully functional. Why did he become separated from his hiking group and decide to leave on his own? A very mysterious case all around from the mountain of Vale. The story of Jim McGrogan is a tragic reminder of the risks and dangers that come with exploring the great outdoors. As an experienced hiker and snowboarder, McGrogan knew the importance of preparation and caution. Even the most experienced outdoorsman can fall victim to unexpected accidents and circumstances. While it's impossible to eliminate all risks when engaging in outdoor activities, there are several lessons that can be learned from McGrogan's story. First and foremost, it's crucial to be properly prepared and equipped for any outdoor adventure, whether it's hiking, snowboarding, or any other activity. This means carrying appropriate gear, checking weather conditions, and informing others of your plans and expected timeline. In addition, it's important to always stay aware of your surroundings, follow marked trails and boundaries, be mindful of your physical limitations. Finally, in case of an emergency, it is important to have a plan and know how to signal for help. Through the tragedy of McGrogan's death, his family and friends have dedicated themselves to promoting outdoor safety and preparedness, as well as honoring his memory through acts of kindness and service. By learning from his story and taking steps to stay safe in the great outdoors, we can honor his legacy and prevent future tragedies.
Welcome back to a universe of mystery. Today we'll be exploring the disappearance of Joe Elliott Blakesley and Amy Linkart. In September 2013 at Craters of the Moon National Monument in Idaho. The remains were eventually found between September and October of the same year. Joe Elliott Blakesley, age 63, was a physician who worked at a correctional institute in Ontario, Oregon, while Amy Linkart, age 69, was a retired school teacher from Lowell Scott Middle School in Meridian, Idaho. The two women met while doing missionary work back in the 1980s. The two friends embarked on a journey in September 2013 and headed for Craters of the Moon National Monument. Unfortunately, they never returned from the short hike. Now, I've been to Craters of the Moon. I was there in 2014. It is an absolute beautiful but treacherous landscape. It's old lava flows that have hardened to jagged, sharp rocks and caves. There's caves all over the place, and you would have to be absolutely out of your mind to leave the marked trail. There are jagged rocks that you can't even step on without the threat of falling through a cave. While we were there, we did hike a few trails, and we did explore a few caves. This national monument is located in central Idaho. It was established in 1924, and it's situated along US 20, concurrent with US 93 and 26, and it lies between the town of Arco and Cary, with an average elevation of 5,900 feet. This volcanic region is one of the best preserved flood basalt areas in the United States. The region is composed of 3 major lava fields, spanning a total area of over 1,000 square miles. And you do not want to get lost out there because literally it looks like desolate wasteland as far as the eye can see. Joe and Amy were reported missing on September 23rd after Dr. Elliott Blakesley's colleagues alerted the authorities when she didn't show up for work. Due to a federal looming government shutdown, the official search did not begin until October 1st. However, 10 rangers did respond and started the search without the aid of federal money such as dogs, rescue teams, and helicopters. Joe and Amy were last seen at a nearby campground in Arco, approximately 18 miles from the park. Authorities discovered park receipts, which had shown the women visited the park on September 24th. Their vehicle was later found at the Tree Molds Trail parking lot. Their dogs, cell phones, purses, and other belongings were found in the truck. Now, it is important to note that at Craters of the Moon, dogs are not allowed on the trails in the park. They're allowed in the parking lot and certain common areas, but they don't allow them on the trails.
The terrain is so sharp and jagged, it's just not safe for dogs to be there. And the surface of the rocks can reach up to 150 degrees in some cases. When the search was expanded, they discovered Amy's remains in a lava field north of the Tree Molds Trail. Amy was found on the rocks, laying face up with no backpack, no jacket, no food, no water, none of the essentials needed to survive. Authorities believed that she had become disoriented because the direction she was walking was kind of facing towards a highway that you could see in the distance, and authorities believe she eventually just succumbed to exposure. But no foul play was suspected. Initially, the searchers thought they had found Joe, but after a confirmation of dental records, it was found that that was actually Amy's body, which isn't surprising given how much the two women do look alike. After an additional month of searching, authorities did recover Joe Elliott Blakeslee's remains about a mile from where Amy was found, and it was about 2.5 miles away from where their pickup was found. And this was an area that search helicopters had flown over, but it's believed that the way the terrain is set, and they just couldn't spot her from above. She blended in right with the rocks. And she was kind of found inside one of these caverns. So her body was obstructed from the air, and she also appeared to have succumbed to dehydration and exposure to the elements. Since Amy and Joe were not seen since they had checked into the park, there were no witnesses on the trail, so nobody's quite sure about how they got separated or why they separated, but authorities concluded that it could have been that one of them was hurt, so they decided to split up so the other one could go get help. And it's not surprising to me, because if you venture off that trail, it is very easy to hurt yourself or get stuck, get a leg stuck or twist an ankle. But the question still remains, why were they found so far away from their truck when all indications pointed to where this was supposed to be a short hike, leaving the dogs in the car, leaving their cell phones in the car? And it's just believed that they became disoriented. There were reports, I couldn't find consistent reporting on this, but there were reports that the weather had started to shift and a storm was moving in. So maybe it got foggy and they just lost their way. As mentioned earlier, maybe one of them got hurt and the other went to seek help and got lost and headed towards that highway, the only place she could see for help in the distance. But that distance is very unforgiving, and it's hard to judge just how far something is away in that terrain because everything looks the same. It's like seeing a ship on water that you think is right there, but once you start swimming towards it, you realize how far it is. So the conclusion by the authorities was just that they were found, that they got separated, possibly injured, and they had just succumbed to the harsh Idaho elements.
In the autumn of 2012, the mysterious disappearance of Tomas Seibold, a 32-year-old survivalist and outdoor instructor, unfolded in the remote wilderness of Alaska, leaving more questions than answers. Born on June 27, 1980, in Germany, Seibold was a seasoned outdoorsman. Standing 6 feet tall, weighing approximately 165 pounds, with green eyes, long auburn hair, and a distinctive mustache and beard. Seibold, who resided in Three Lakes, Wisconsin, was last seen alive between September 27th and 29th of 2012 at a fish camp cabin 30 miles north of Ambler, Alaska. His attire at the time of his disappearance remains unknown. In June of 2012, he embarked on a journey to explore Alaska's backcountry, planning to spend about 5 months in the wilderness. A skilled survivalist, Seibold had spent 6 years training and instructing at the Taking Drum Outdoor School, a center that teaches Native American values, weather forecasting, shelter building, and primitive hunting and gathering techniques. The school's founder, Tamarack Song, described Seibold as an experienced outdoorsman and a wandering spirit. Seibold was known for spending extended periods in the forest during winter, living in primitive structures, and surviving off handmade snare lines. In summer, he would stay out for a month at a time in the Wisconsin Northwoods. Seibold's journey in Alaska began at a native fish camp in the southern part of the state. He traveled north along the Nano River near Fairbanks, living off the land. By September of 2012, he reached the village of Ambler and then traveled 30 miles up the Ambler River to a cabin owned by the Schreibers. A family Tamarack had connected with him. The Schreibers had lived in this remote location for nearly 20 years, raising 4 sons. After staying with the Schreibers until September 27th of 2012, Seibold continued his journey into the gates of the Arctic National Park and Preserve. He was expected to be back in touch by early November, with a flight scheduled for November 15th back to Wisconsin. However, something prevented him from following his plans to travel to the town of Kobuk to catch his flight. When Seibold missed his flight, Alaskan State Police were alerted to his disappearance on November 11th of 2012. A search led by Sergeant Dwayne Stone began near the junction of the Ambler River, where Seibold might have set up a base camp. The search faced severe weather conditions, with temperatures dropping to minus 23 degrees Fahrenheit with short daylight hours. The area's remoteness and challenging terrain made the search operation difficult. After 6 flights over 13 days, the search was suspended on November 24th due to the plummeting temperatures. Family and friends resumed the search, hiring bush pilots and covering 3,500 square miles, but to no avail. Clues such as a missing map section, a book describing traditional Eskimo routes, and Tomas's interest in rafting down the Ambler River provided some insight, but no concrete answers. Seibold's disappearance remains a mystery. He was declared legally deceased in 2013, although no remains have ever been found. This case highlights the unpredictability and dangers of the wilderness, even for experienced individuals like Seibold. His story serves as a reminder of the importance of safety measures, such as carrying a personal locator beacon when venturing into remote areas. As of August 2023, there have been no further updates on this case. Samantha Sayers, a woman whose spirit and love for the great outdoors have left an indelible mark. Known to her friends as Sam, she's a figure of strength and inspiration. In her teenage years, Sam faced a challenge that would test anyone's resolve: alopecia, an autoimmune condition that resulted in the loss of all her hair. But Sam, with her unbreakable spirit, embraced her baldness with pride, becoming a beacon of confidence and charm among her peers. Sam's passion for nature was kindled during her studies at the State University of New York, where she pursued a master's in technical theater design and technology. Post-graduation, she moved to Seattle, a city known for its stunning natural landscapes. It was here that Sam's life took a romantic turn when she met Kevin Dares, a single father of 3, through Tinder. Their shared love for the wilderness saw them exploring Seattle's majestic peaks and mountains, creating memories in the lap of nature. However, in August of 2018, a solo hike on a familiar trail turned into a profound mystery. Sam set out to conquer the Vesper Peak Trail in the North Cascades National Park, a challenging route not meant for the faint-hearted. She planned a day-long hike, assuring Kevin she'd be back by dusk. But as night fell, Sam didn't return, setting off a chain of events that would lead to one of the most baffling missing person cases in recent American history. Despite an extensive search involving volunteers, law enforcement, and even infrared-equipped helicopters, no trace of Sam was found. The only clues to her presence in the park were her car in the parking lot and her signature on a trail log. The search lasted 22 days and ended with more questions than answers. Theories about Sam's disappearance abound, from a tragic accident in the treacherous park to more sinister possibilities, possibly involving foul play. Her mother, Lisa, suspects that there is more to the story than meets the eye. Sam, described as a white female with a distinctive bald head, green eyes, and stars on a vine tattoo across her head, was last seen in a green sports bra and gray hiking pants. This story isn't just a tale of a missing person. It's a narrative about a woman whose love for nature and indomitable spirit continue to inspire. If you have any information about Samantha Claire Sayers, please reach out to Detective Kendra Connolly of the Snohomish County Sheriff's Office. Let's keep the spirit of adventure and hope alive as we seek answers in this mysterious case. Vernon Cody Matthews, at 23 years old, was not just an anthropology student at the University of California, Berkeley. He was a young man with a profound passion for the past. Known affectionately as Cody, his fascination with dinosaurs and archaeology often led him to participate in digs, earning him the playful nickname Indiana Jones from his parents. His love for anthropology, archaeology, and geology was deep-rooted, and he was equally skilled in survival techniques, making him an experienced outdoorsman in his early 20s. This background makes the circumstances of his disappearance in the wilderness deeply perplexing, leaving his family and friends in a state of ongoing bewilderment. In early June of 2014, Cody embarked on a journey from his university dorm to Pollock Pines, California, situated near the majestic Sierra Nevada mountains. The Matthews family owned a cabin in this serene location, and Cody's parents, Vern and Cindy, planned to join him a few days later. This arrangement was perfect for Cody, who relished the opportunity to connect with nature, living off the land and exploring the dense forests surrounding the cabin. However, on June 6th, Cindy received a phone call from Cody that would mark the beginning of a mysterious and unsettling series of events. Instead of sharing exciting tales of his time at the cabin, Cody relayed the alarming news that the cabin had been ransacked. The thieves had made off with jewelry, cameras, and tools amounting to a loss of between $13,000 and $18,000. Vern and Cindy were understandably shaken by this news and quickly made plans to head to the cabin the following day. Before ending the call, Cindy and Cody discussed his plans for the afternoon, during which Cody mentioned he was going for a hike. Little did they know, this conversation would be their last. Upon arriving at the cabin, Vern and Cindy were met with a series of bizarre clues. A heavy saw, requiring at least 2 people to move, was inexplicably placed in the driveway. A kettle was left on the stove, and an unfinished plate of eggs sat in the kitchen. Their calls for Cody echoed unanswered, and a wave of panic set in. They scoured every inch of the cabin, only to find that the security and animal cameras installed for protection had been completely destroyed, and there was evidence of forced entry through the cabin's side door. With no sign of Cody, and after countless failed attempts to reach him on his cell phone, his parents contacted the El Dorado County Sheriff's Department. The authorities, along with Cody's parents, deduced that he had left for his hike with just a few essentials: a bottle of water, a hunting blade, a compass, his phone, and a bag of trail mix. The last signal from his phone was traced to 6:30 p.m. on June 6th near the South Fork of the American River. The newspaper reported that the ping showed Cody moving towards the house before ending in the water. An extensive search operation was launched, involving volunteers, law enforcement officials, dog teams, divers, and helicopters. They meticulously combed the Pollock Pines area and the banks of the American River, but no trace of Cody was ever found. After 8 days of relentless searching, the operation was called off, leaving more questions than answers. The Matthews family, haunted by the possibility of foul play, speculated that the cabin burglary might be connected to Cody's disappearance. However, investigators have not established a definitive link between the two incidents. The family's grief was compounded in September of 2014 when a wildfire, later determined to be arson, ravaged Pollock Pines and destroyed the Matthews family cabin. The connection between this act of arson and Cody's disappearance remains speculative, adding another layer of mystery to the already baffling case. Years have passed since Cody's disappearance, but Vern and Cindy Matthews continue to honor their son's memory and hold on to hope for answers. Vernon Cody Matthews is described as a white male with blonde hair, blue eyes, and a full reddish-colored beard, standing 6 foot 3 inches tall and weighing 220 pounds. He was last seen wearing shorts, no t-shirt, and barefoot-style shoes. Anyone with information that could shed light on this enduring mystery is urged to come forward. Cody's story is not just a missing persons case, it's a narrative that resonates with all who cherish the wilderness and the mysteries that it holds. In the tranquil town of Appleton, Wisconsin, the disappearance of 22-year-old Nicholas Hibdas has left both his family and investigators grappling with unanswered questions. Nicholas, a young man with a profound connection to the wilderness, often spent his weekends hiking and exploring the natural world with his faithful companion, a white German shepherd named Samantha. So when Nicholas vanished without a trace from his home in Appleton, the community was left in a state of shock and disbelief. The last confirmed sighting of Nicholas and Samantha was on April 1st, 2019, at his residence. The details surrounding his disappearance, including his last known activities or the circumstances leading up to his vanishing, remained shrouded in mystery. Alarm bells rang when Nicholas failed to show up for work and lost contact with his family, prompting them to report him missing. Despite the gravity of his disappearance, the incident received surprisingly sparse news coverage, leaving many questions unanswered and the community in a state of unease. In response, Nicholas's family, friends, and the Appleton Police Department launched a search. The streets of Appleton were covered with missing person poster flyers, and the Appleton Police Department made a public appeal for any information that could lead to Nicholas. For 18 days, Nicholas's family endured an agonizing wait for news. Then, on April 18, 2019, the Appleton Police Department encountered their first and only significant lead. Nicholas's 2012 black Ford Fusion was found abandoned in a remote area near Highway 64 and Shadow Lake Road, across from the dense, sprawling national forest. This area, known for its thick brush and dense vegetation, seemed an unlikely place for Nicholas to have traveled without a specific purpose. Adding to the mystery, there was no sign of Nicholas or Samantha near the car. Intriguingly, Samantha's collar appeared to have been deliberately removed, suggesting a possible struggle or an intentional act. About a mile from where the vehicle was found, investigators discovered a tarp and some gear. This discovery led to a massive search operation involving scent dogs, drones, and search and rescue personnel, but all efforts to find Nicholas or any further clues proved fruitless. By 2020, the Appleton Police Department had informed the local newspaper that the case had gone cold, with no new leads or developments. The mystery of Nicholas's disappearance remains unsolved, leaving a void in the hearts of those who knew him. Nicholas is described as a white male with brown hair and eyes, standing between 5'10" and 6 feet tall, weighing between 170 and 190 pounds. He has a distinctive tattoo of two squiggly uppercase Y's on his left wrist and was last seen wearing a black Gucci sweatshirt, blue American Eagle jeans, and brown or mustard color steel-toed work boots. The story is not just about a missing person, it's a narrative that resonates with all who cherish the wilderness and the mysteries that it holds. Anyone with information that could shed light on this enduring mystery is urged to contact investigator Chad Riddle of the Appleton Police Department. Nicholas's story continues to be a reminder of the unpredictable nature of life and the enduring hope for answers. It's a tale that speaks to the heart of every adventurer, every nature lover, and everyone who believes in the power of community in the face of the unknown. Michael Feisery, a 51-year-old from Southern California, epitomized the spirit of an off-the-grid adventurer. Adopted into the Feisery family along with his sister, Michael quickly embraced a life that intertwined with the great outdoors. His family fondly recalled his exceptional memory, particularly for hiking trails and paths, a skill that makes the circumstances of his disappearance in 2005 all the more baffling and heart-wrenching. On June 15th of 2005, Michael embarked on what was supposed to be a routine solo hike in Yosemite National Park, entering through the Hetch Hetchy Reservoir. His initial plan was to hike through a series of scenic points, including Rancheria Falls, Till Mountain, Lake Vernon, and Beehive, before completing the loop back to the reservoir. However, In a last-minute decision that would later puzzle everyone, Michael chose to trek along the Pacific Crest Trail towards Tiltil Mountain instead. Fellow hikers on the Pacific Crest Trail reported spotting Michael on his way to Tiltil Mountain. These sightings would later be marked as the last confirmed instances of anyone seeing or hearing from him. The alarm was raised on June 19th, when Michael had still not returned from what was intended to be a short hike. His family, familiar with his tendency to overestimate his hiking distances, initially hoped that there was a simple explanation for his absence. They recalled a previous incident in Yellowstone National Park where Michael had severely injured his ankle and had to painstakingly crawl out of the trail until he was rescued. As concern mounted by June 21, 2005, Michael's family reached out to the Yosemite National Park Rangers to report him missing. This triggered a comprehensive search operation. Teams of search and rescue workers, along with volunteers, meticulously scoured the Pacific Crest Trail and the surrounding areas of the park. Near Tiltil Mountain, a particularly rugged and remote part of the park, searchers discovered Michael's backpack. The backpack contained a topographical map, a water bottle, and a camera, but there was no sign of Michael himself. His car was later found parked in the Hetch Hetchy parking area, adding another layer of mystery to his disappearance. Despite extensive searches by land and air, including the deployment of scent dogs, no further trace of Michael was ever found. The absence of clues has led his family to fear the worst, that Michael might have encountered foul play or suffered an injury off the beaten path, leaving him unable to seek help. In the years following his disappearance, Michael's sister has become a fervent advocate for hiker safety. She dedicates her time to educating hikers about the risks of solo trekking and the critical importance of being adequately prepared for every hike. She also volunteers to assemble hiking backpacks, ensuring that they are equipped with essential supplies suitable for various terrains and weather conditions, a tribute to her brother's legacy. Michael Feisery is described as a white male with gray hair and green eyes. He stands between 5'8" and 5'10" and weighs between 150 to 165 pounds. At the time of his disappearance, he was last seen wearing a faded blue or gray t-shirt with the sleeves ripped off, olive green or khaki-colored shorts, and a torn pink or red scarf. Notably, he was not carrying adequate supplies for an extended hike, and he also had a beard and mustache. This story resonates deeply with those who share a passion for the wilderness and the mysteries that it holds. Anyone with information about Michael's disappearance is encouraged to contact Yosemite Park officials. In the winter of 2018, Konstantinos Danny Philippidis, a 49-year-old firefighter from Toronto, embarked on what was supposed to be a routine annual ski trip with fellow off-duty and retired firefighters. Their destination was Whiteface Mountain in Wilmington, New York, a popular ski resort known for its challenging trails and picturesque views of the Adirondack Mountains. Philippidis, an intermediate skier, was among a group of 9 who looked forward to enjoying the slopes. On February 7th, their last day at the resort, the group planned to wrap up their trip and head home. However, Philippidis, feeling enthusiastic, decided to take one final solo run down the mountain in the afternoon. His friends, tired from the day's activities, chose to wait for him at the lodge, located midway down the mountain. As Philippidis ventured out, a severe snowstorm began, significantly reducing visibility and transforming the skiing conditions. When Philippidis did not return by 4 p.m., the ski lift ceased operation. His friends grew increasingly worried. After waiting an additional 30 minutes, they reported him missing. The discovery that Philippidis' personal belongings, including his car, passport, phone, and ID, were left untouched at their accommodations. This intensified concerns for his safety. A massive search operation was launched involving forest rangers, ski patrol, New York State Police, Homeland Security officers, U.S. border officials, and over 100 Toronto firefighters who traveled to assist in the search. Despite the use of helicopters, drones, and sniffer dogs, Philippides remained missing as weather conditions worsened. 6 days later, in a stunning turn of events, Philippides was found over 4,500 kilometers away at the Sacramento airport in California. He was in a disoriented state, still wearing his ski clothes, including his green ski jacket, black helmet, and goggles, and also carrying his ski helmet. He had a new iPhone, a credit card, $1,000 in cash, and had recently gotten a haircut. Philippides had no clear memory of how he traveled from New York to California. He vaguely recalled riding in the back of a big rig truck and sleeping a lot during the journey. He wasn't able to recall purchasing the new phone or how he ended up at the airport. After being located, Philippides was questioned by law enforcement, but showed no signs of drug or alcohol influence. He speculated that he might have suffered a head injury, leading to his confused state. He was taken to a hospital, but was discharged without any sign of physical injuries. The circumstances of his disappearance and journey to California remain largely unexplained. Philippides himself later suggested that he might have taken a wrong turn after separating from his friends, leading to a fall near a children's ski slope. He believed he had hailed a truck for a ride back to town, but could not provide details about the driver or the truck. Philippides' experience raised several medical theories. Dr. Charles Tater, a brain surgeon, suggested that Philippides might have suffered from retrograde amnesia due to a concussion. Dr. Jennifer Ryan proposed that he might have experienced a dissociative state, a rare condition triggered by trauma or emotional disturbance, leading to a temporary loss of personal identity and impulsive wandering. Despite extensive investigations and medical consultations, the full story of Philippides' disappearance and journey remains shrouded in mystery. His memory loss and the lack of clear evidence have left many questions unanswered. The incident continues to intrigue and baffle experts and the public alike, with the true nature of what happened to Philippides during those 6 days in February of 2018 remaining a profound mystery. Thank you for watching until the end of this video, and if you've enjoyed this content, please like, share, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of my new and upcoming content. Today, we plunge into the enigmatic story of James Griffin, a tale nestled in the wilds of Washington State, a narrative that beckons to all lovers of nature, hiking, and the great outdoors. James Griffin, at the age of 60, was an inhabitant of Port Angeles, Washington. Those who knew him would describe him as a devoted individual. His heart echoed with the rhythm of the trails, and hiking was his solace. But fate threw a curveball when James, a laborer by profession, met with an injury to his foot. Yet, his spirit remained undaunted. Originally hailing from Michigan, James found a newfound love for the Washington State terrain. The magnificent Port Angeles isn't just a picturesque town, but it's also the gateway to the enchanting Olympic National Park. For those unfamiliar, let me paint a picture. The Olympic National Park is nature's masterpiece, a land where meticulously maintained trails stretch out, some even paved to perfection, leading explorers to mesmerizing destinations. Amongst the many wonders of the park, James had a particular fondness for its therapeutic hot springs. With his injured foot, these springs were more than just a natural wonder, they were his sanctuary. He would often find solace by soaking his feet, letting the warmth ease his pain. As winter cast its frosty veil on December 22, 2014, James sought the comforting embrace of the springs. Despite the chill, he intended to make a brief visit, absorb the tranquility, and then return home. While the park did offer camping spots, it required prior reservations and paperwork. But on this day, James had a simple day-long hike planned. That fateful morning, he texted a friend, hinting at his beloved destination. His friend, knowing James's love for the springs, wished him an enjoyable trip. By around 10 a.m., James, in his Subaru Outback, was en route to Olympic National Park, a place where he proudly held an annual pass. And so, with a heart full of adventure, James set forth towards the trailhead, completely unaware of the mystery that awaited him. Now, let's delve deeper and uncover the enigma of James Griffin's journey. The specific trail stands out for its meticulous upkeep. For the most part, it's impeccably paved, providing clear passage, even across challenging terrains. It's not one of those ambiguous paths where one wrong turn could leave you disoriented. This trail is undeniably prominent, ensuring even the novice hiker won't lose their way. Reports suggest that James embarked on this trail around 10 in the morning. However, as time went on, the tone of our story shifts. Christmas Eve arrived, a time of merriment and gatherings. James was expected at a festive dinner, yet, as the clock ticked, James was nowhere to be found. Concern gripped his family when Christmas morning dawned, and there was still no word from him. Arriving at James's residence, they found his dog, seemingly distressed, having been left alone for an unsettling number of days. This was completely out of character for James. Concern quickly spiraled into panic. Following discussions with James's acquaintance, including the friend he had last texted, the family deduced that his last known location was the Olympic National Park. They promptly alerted local law enforcement about his mysterious disappearance on that fateful Christmas day in 2014. Local authorities collaborated with the Park Service, bringing them up to speed about the missing James Griffin. It was presumed that he might have ventured towards the hot springs, a place he often frequented. And, in a serendipitous twist, one park ranger, recalling the description of James's vehicle, remembered spotting a similar one stationed at the trailhead parking lot leading to the hot springs. The pieces of the puzzle started to come together, but the heart of the mystery remained. Upon arrival at the park's trailhead, investigators were met with an eerie sight. James's vehicle remained stationary, untouched since his journey began. A search of the car yielded a seemingly ordinary receipt from Safeway, dated December 22nd, time stamped at 10:20 a.m. It recorded James's purchase of Folgers instant coffee and, curiously, a Tootsie Roll. While seemingly mundane, these items painted a vivid picture of the beginning of James's fateful hike. Eagerly, the search team pressed on. Their voices echoed off the surrounding foliage as they called out for James, hoping for any sign of him. The trail remained as prominent and clear as always, but James was nowhere to be found. However, an intriguing breakthrough awaited. After a thorough review of surveillance footage, they identified vehicles that had been parked concurrently with James's. One such vehicle belonged to a couple who recounted a fateful encounter with James at the hot springs. They recalled he was in high spirits, sharing beverages with them. The couple noted seeing him later preparing to head back down the trail, backpack in tow. The trail, a mere 2-mile trek, with its gentle slope leading back to the parking area, shouldn't have posed a challenge. But as the rangers retraced his steps, a chilling discovery awaited. About a half-mile from the parking area, near a creek off the trail, they found James's backpack. Concealed with a towel and propped against a log, its contents seemed untouched: a can of Coca-Cola, a cup, and even a cigarette butt of James's preferred brand. Strangely, they also found a mountain meal, a prepackaged survival food, untouched, despite the stove and fuel found in his backpack. Intriguingly, a camera nestled within his belongings provided an additional layer of mystery. The film, once developed, showcased scenic shots typical of a nature lover. However, the last 2 shots deviated from this pattern. Instead of the meticulously framed beauty one might expect, they seemed almost random. One showcased dense shadow foliage across the creek, the other a boulder-strewn stretch of the creek. What was James trying to capture? And then there's the creek. On the other side of where James's belongings were found, the terrain becomes incredibly steep. This region of Olympic National Park is synonymous with relentless rain, making the territory not just challenging, but potentially treacherous. So, with these new details in hand, the quest to unravel the mystery of James's disappearance continues. What might have been a routine hike in one of the world's rainiest regions turned into a perplexing enigma. This backdrop set the scene for a confounding search. Upon finding James's backpack with no trace of James himself, the authorities ramped up their efforts, even getting James's family involved. They introduced James's dog, known for its close bond with him, to the site, hoping it would lead them to him. The attempt, however, was futile. Undeterred, park rangers deployed 3 separate canine teams in the subsequent weeks. Despite the expansive search, they found no trace of James. The relentless rain, characteristic of the area, coupled with the ensuing dense fog, hampered the efforts considerably, leading to a scaled-down search.
Only 6 personnel, paired with 3 canine units, continued to search for James. Surprisingly, about a month after his disappearance, on January 25th, one team made an unexpected discovery. On a steep incline opposite the creek, considered improbable terrain for James due to his known foot injury, they found a Tootsie Roll wrapper. James's recent purchase receipt corroborated this find. Further up, a devastating discovery awaited: James's body lying near a log. Bizarrely, there were no injury marks or signs of trauma, and he seemed to be fully dressed. After a forensic examination, the results only deepened the mystery. The coroner identified the cause of death as hypothermia, labeling it accidental. This verdict raised many questions. Why would James, equipped with a coat and seemingly prepared for the cold, sit by a creek if he felt hypothermic? Why would he cross the creek and ascend 1,700 feet on a challenging incline, despite a debilitating foot injury? Furthermore, the earlier involvement of canine units failed to detect any scent of James. Only by sheer chance did the team decide to explore uphill, and even then, the dogs only acknowledged the presence of a body when virtually on top of him. The circumstances of James's final moments, from the inexplicably missed scent to his mysterious uphill journey and Tootsie Roll wrapper, leave us with more questions than answers. Olympic National Park boasts lush, dense greenery, a backdrop to James's puzzling tale. Imagine a man positioned to prepare a meal by the creek, only to traverse it and then journey uphill, seemingly just to eat a Tootsie Roll. One might wonder if it was even James who consumed the candy, or perhaps someone or something else. Oddly, the coroner's report adds another layer of mystery. The documented time of death is January 25th, the very day James was discovered, despite him being missing for 30 days. In such conditions, one would expect some level of decomposition, but surprisingly, James's body seemed unaffected. Furthermore, tests revealed no trace of drugs or alcohol in his system. The situation seems inexplicable. A man on disability decides to venture half a mile from his vehicle, sets out to make a meal, and then is possibly interrupted. What could have prompted such a man to cross a creek and ascend steep, rugged terrain, only to meet his end from hypothermia next to a log, apparently an entire month later? It's a perplexing case. The official report states James's death was accidental, caused by hypothermia. The theory suggests James deviated from the well-maintained path, consumed a Tootsie Roll, and then ascended further and met his fate a month after his disappearance. The narrative is baffling, and I'm eager to know what others think. Could James have been coerced uphill by an external entity or force? And if so, why does his body show no evidence of distress or trauma? And where was he for the duration of those missing 30 days? I'd appreciate insights and theories, as this case leaves me with more questions than answers. Share your thoughts in the comments below.
Andrew Bliss, a 23-year-old man, was a familiar figure in the small, tight-knit community of Pulaski, New York. With his tall stature of 6'2" and his brown hair and eyes, it made him quite recognizable. His life in Pulaski was unremarkable until the events of June of 2003, which set in motion a series of events that would lead to his mysterious disappearance. Bliss's life seemed to unravel when he abruptly quit his job following a painful breakup. The breakup had hit him hard, leaving friends and family concerned about his well-being. It was this concern that escalated when Bliss suddenly left town in his gray 2001 Chevy Impala without a word to anyone. His departure was so sudden that when he became unreachable, panic set in among those who knew him. On June 23rd, with heavy hearts and a sense of foreboding, his loved ones filed a missing persons report with the New York State Police. The plot thickened when 3 days before the missing persons report was filed, a call came in to the Sawyer County Sheriff's Department in northern Wisconsin. An abandoned vehicle had been spotted parked on the secluded Federal Forest Road 162, a remote area 2 miles north of State Highway 70. The vehicle, a gray 2001 Chevy Impala with New York license plates, was registered to Andrew Robert Bliss. The scene at which Bliss's car was found was eerie and puzzling. The vehicle was deserted, its doors left open as if inviting an unseen presence. The keys were still in the ignition. The gas tank was completely empty. Despite a thorough examination, no clues were found in or around the car. This lack of evidence was confounding, but what added to the mystery were reports from locals who claimed to have seen Bliss. They described him as walking along the road, smiling and waving at passerbys around 8 a.m., not far from where his car was found. A particularly chilling account came from the driver of a logging truck, who claimed to have seen Bliss walking that morning. According to the driver, Bliss was dressed in a long-sleeve shirt and pants, and he turned to wave. This fleeting interaction is the last confirmed sighting of Bliss. Realizing the gravity of the situation, the Sawyer County authorities launched an extensive search and rescue operation. The area along Federal Forest Road 162, where Bliss's car was found, is known for its challenging terrain, a densely wooded forest with swamps. The search party included the Sawyer County Sheriff's Department, the Fire Association, 2 planes from the Civil Air Patrol, and 3 canine units. They combed an 8-mile section of the National Forest for any sign of Bliss. The Sawyer County Gazette reported on the search, describing the area as desolate and swampy, a place where few would wander by choice. Despite the exhaustive efforts, the search yielded nothing. The search teams also checked nearby cabins and any place Bliss could have sought refuge, but they found nothing out of the ordinary. Further investigation into Bliss's past revealed that this wasn't the first time he had run out of gas. On 2 other occasions during his cross-country journey, he had made contact with law enforcement for the same reason. Since his cell phone was not found in the car, it was assumed he had it with him when he disappeared. Yet, why he drove to such a remote area in rural Wisconsin and why he didn't call for help remains shrouded in mystery. The local community was not ready to give up. In response to Bliss's shocking disappearance, they formed a Sawyer County search and rescue team. This dedicated group, composed of adult and youth volunteers, underwent extensive training in tracking, clue awareness, navigation, first aid, and other essential search and rescue skills. They resumed the search for Bliss, even using the opportunity to train new members. During another thorough search of the 8-mile section of the forest where Bliss vanished, the team encountered what they hoped would be a significant breakthrough. Cadaver dogs, part of the search team, alerted their handlers to the presence of what they believed to be human remains in a specific area. With each volunteer spaced out every 10 feet, the team meticulously sifted through the underbrush, hoping to discover any sign of Andrew Bliss. Eventually, they stumbled upon a bone at the base of a tree, hidden beneath a pile of leaves. The discovery reignited interest in the case, with local media speculating that this could be the key to unraveling the mystery of what happened to Bliss. The search and rescue team promptly sent the bone to a forensic anthropologist for analysis, leaving the Sawyer County community in suspense for days. The anticipation turned into disappointment when the results returned. The bone, initially thought to be a human tibia, was identified as that of a bear, which bears a resemblance to human bones. With no further leads to pursue, the search for Andrew Bliss hit a dead end. Despite the lack of evidence, the outdoors men and women of Sawyer County remained vigilant. In 2011, the Sawyer County Sheriff's Office began asking deer hunters to keep an eye out for any clues that might emerge in the wilderness. Pat Sanchez, the Sawyer County Emergency Management Director, expressed the community's determination to the press, stating, "We want to bring closure for his family, and we believe someone may have seen something or stumbled across something. Clothing, glasses, bone fragments, something. Anything found in that area could be relevant to this case." The call to action was clear. If anybody had information, even if it seemed remotely connected to the case, they were urged to contact the Sawyer County Sheriff's Department. The hope is that one day, some piece of evidence will surface that will help solve the disappearance of Andrew Bliss, providing much-needed closure to a family and community haunted by this unexplained vanishing. In the expanse of Virginia's Shenandoah National Park, a perplexing disappearance unfolded, weaving a narrative that would perplex and sadden many. Ty Sawyer, An 18-year-old with a life ahead of him became the subject of a massive search operation after he inexplicably disappeared into the dense forest on the night of April 22, 2021. This was not merely a case of a young man losing his way. It was a tale of sudden and unexplained psychological turmoil, a family's frantic quest for answers, and a search that would end in heartbreak. Ty's life took a bewildering turn in the days preceding his disappearance. His mother, Chandra Maxwell, recounted the onset of Ty's disturbing behavior, marked by hallucinations that shattered the mundane reality of his life. He was a shelf stalker by day, but his nights became haunted by bizarre delusions. He once sent a text to his mother, inquiring why she had dispatched aliens to surveil him at work. He also believed he was conversing with his late grandfather, a claim that was as distressing as it was mystifying. One morning, in a text exchange that would later haunt Chandra, she reminded Ty of track practice after school. His reply was unsettling. He claimed he was already at practice, a clear impossibility that signaled something was amiss. Ty's parents, Chandra and John Sawyer, were deeply troubled, suspecting that their son might be under the influence of an unknown substance. Their fears escalated when John discovered Ty in a state of unresponsiveness, sprawled in their living room, a cartoon flickering on television as if mocking the gravity of the situation. The arrival of paramedics was met with a sudden seizure that gripped Ty, a violent prelude to the chaos that would soon unfold. At the hospital, it took a team of 8 to restrain him, a testament to the severity of his altered state. Despite a clean drug panel, the hospital inexplicably discharged Ty, leaving his parents in a state of desperation and confusion. Determined to protect Ty, Chandra and John faced an unforeseen challenge. Seizing a moment when Chandra was showering, he grabbed her car keys and fled. His attire was casual and ill-suited for the outdoors. A blue hoodie, blue pajamas, and white sneakers, the sneakers still sheathed in yellow hospital booties. Upon realizing her son had vanished, Chandra reached out to Ty. He claimed he had driven to a convenience store, but his failure to return home signaled a dire turn of events. Utilizing a tracking app, Chandra and John embarked on a harrowing chase, following Ty's erratic path through Philadelphia, Maryland, and nearly catching up with him near the White House in Washington, D.C. However, as they approached Luray, Virginia, Ty's cell signal vanished, and with it, their ability to track his movements. Driven by instinct, Chandra steered towards the Shenandoah National Park, a decision that would lead them to a scenic overlook near mile marker 35 on Skyline Drive. The family had no connection to this remote location, making Ty's presence there all the more baffling. They found Ty in his car, windows locked, engine idling, and music playing, but he was unresponsive to their frantic calls. In a moment of desperation, John, Ty's father, pounded on the car windows, hoping to break through to his son. Suddenly, Ty engaged the car in reverse, nearly hitting his father, and sped off into the night. When Chandra and John caught up, they were met with a chilling scene. The car crashed into a wall, the horn blaring, but Ty had vanished into the forest's dark embrace. The search for Ty was a monumental effort, involving Shenandoah National Park officials, the Virginia Department of Emergency Management, state police, local sheriff's offices, and a myriad of search and rescue organizations. Despite the deployment of 68 searchers, 4 dog teams, a helicopter equipped with infrared sensors, the rugged terrain provided a formidable obstacle. 2 days into the search, a trail of Ty's belongings was discovered, laid out as if marking a path. His hoodie, pajama pants, and sneakers, culminating with his cell phone, its screen shattered and battery life exhausted. The placement of his items suggested that he had taken a direct route through the densest part of the forest. On April 25th, park rangers announced the grim discovery of remains believed to be Ty's. They were sent for confirmation to the medical examiner in Manassas, Virginia. The cause of death was reported as hypothermia and blunt force injuries. The mystery of Ty's hallucinations and erratic behavior remains unsolved. The family suspects an acne medication Ty was taking, which came with a warning of potential severe mental side effects, could be a contributing factor. However, providing a causal link between the medication and his mental state would be a complex and perhaps impossible legal challenge. The tragedy of Ty Sawyer's disappearance and subsequent death is a reminder of the fragility of the human psyche and the urgent need for mental health awareness and intervention. It's a narrative that leaves a family grappling with an immeasurable loss and a community searching for understanding amidst the silent, towering trees of the Shenandoah. In the spring of 1968, the city of Madison, Wisconsin was the unsuspecting stage for a perplexing disappearance that would baffle the community and challenge the authorities for generations. Michael Larson, a 19-year-old with a promising future, was a student at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, known for his academic prowess and quiet demeanor. His life was devoid of the turmoil that often accompanies youth. He was not entangled in a romantic drama, family disputes, or any known feuds. Moreover, he was not burdened by the prospect of military service during a tumultuous era in American history. His disposition was generally cheerful, and his behavior, up until his disappearance, gave no cause for alarm. Michael resided in the university dormitories, but he had been spending the Easter break at his family's home, a period of reprieve before the rigors of academic life resumed. As the break drew to a close, Michael mentioned to his mother that he intended to step out briefly to get a haircut, a routine errand that would soon spiral into a haunting mystery. His mother, accustomed to the independence and responsibility her son had always shown, thought little of it. However, 2 days later, she would receive a distressing phone call from the police that would mark the beginning of an enduring enigma. What Michael's mother did not know was that Michael's departure was not as innocuous as it seemed. Before leaving, he withdrew a substantial sum of $650 from his bank account, nearly depleting it. It was a significant amount of money at the time, equivalent to thousands in today's currency, and it suggested premeditation. Along with the cash, Michael took with him a poncho, suitable for inclement weather, and a map of the Porcupine Mountains Wilderness State Park. The park, known for its rugged terrain and expansive forests, was a considerable distance from Madison. It was not a place one would venture without a reason. The first tangible clue in Michael's disappearance came when conservation officers in Michigan discovered an abandoned green 1962 Volkswagen sedan. The car was found on a remote back road near a gravel pit in the Porcupine Mountains, a location that seemed to corroborate the map that Michael had taken. The vehicle was unlocked, the keys were in the ignition, and the gas tank was full. This suggested a hasty or unplanned departure from the car. The absence of a Wisconsin license plate was peculiar, and the traces of blood found around the front seat added a layer of concern to the already mystifying scene. The blood led to speculation that whomever removed the plate might have sustained a minor injury in the process, yet the driver, presumed to be Michael, was nowhere to be found, and there were no discernible clues pointing to his direction or fate. The investigation was hampered by the lack of a vehicle identification number, or VIN, a feature that would become mandatory for passenger vehicles only a year later. Investigators had to resort to unconventional methods, such as examining oil change stickers to trace the car's ownership back to Michael Larson. When officers first attempted to contact Michael, they inadvertently reached out to another Michael Larson, an officer at the Madison Police Department. This coincidence initially led to confusion, but eventually helped to connect the dots when the police officer learned of a missing college student by the same name. The search for Michael Larson, the student, was promptly initiated. Michael was no stranger to the wilderness. He was an experienced hiker and backpacker with a keen interest in science. He had previously embarked on a backpacking trip with his younger brother, Tom, to the Porcupine Mountains, the very park where he had now seemingly vanished. Although not an expert in bushcraft, Michael was competent in basic outdoor survival skills and had a familiarity with the park's terrain. The initial searches were fruitless, and the fear that Michael might have fallen into one of the numerous mine shafts in the area loomed large. Despite the mobilization of extensive search efforts, the results were inconclusive. The sheriff's office eventually sent a disheartening letter to Michael's parents, indicating that the search was being called off due to lack of leads. The arrival of deer hunting season, however, brought a renewed vigor to the search. Hunters were implored to remain vigilant of any signs of Michael, and information about his disappearance was broadcast across local radio stations. It was during this time that a hunter from Detroit stumbled upon a chilling scene near the Lake Superior shoreline, a boot with a bone protruding from it. This discovery led to unearthing of a second boot in a similar state, both showing signs of a bear attack. The timing of Michael's disappearance in April coincided with the period where bears emerged from hibernation, often hungry and potentially aggressive, making a bear encounter a plausible explanation for the state of the boots. Several months later, in the frigid grasp of February of 1969, hunters chanced upon an abandoned campsite deep within the Porcupine Mountains. The campsite, complete with a tent, a canoe, and food suspended from the trees to deter wildlife, immediately became a focal point of speculation. Could this campsite be linked to Michael's disappearance? The mystery only deepened when in October of that year, John Courser from Land O'Lakes, Wisconsin, claimed the campsite was his own. Courser's delayed claim and inability to explain the reason for his tardiness in doing so raised eyebrows, especially since Michael had previously worked at a youth camp near Land O'Lakes. This raised the possibility that Michael and Courser might have known each other. In a quest for answers, Tom Larson, Michael's brother, reached out to the now elderly Courser in 2022. Courser, at 90 years old, claimed he had no memory of why he delayed claiming the campsite or of meeting Michael Larson. The case took another turn when efforts to revisit it with modern DNA forensic were stymied by the mysterious disappearance of the boots and bones previously found. These crucial pieces of evidence, along with their records, had inexplicably vanished, leaving the case at a standstill. The enduring mystery of Michael Larson's disappearance remains unsolved to this day. His father, Glenn, clung to hope until his last days, interpreting every missed call or abrupt hang-up as a potential sign from Michael. Michael remains the only person to have gone missing in that park, and the search for answers continues. Tom Larson has provided a DNA sample to aid in the investigation, and cadaver dogs have been deployed once more. Hunters are still encouraged to look for any evidence that might shed light on the fate of Michael Larson. Anyone with information on the disappearance of Michael Larson is urged to contact Michael Knack, park manager, or John Pepin, a writer at the Michigan Department of Natural Resources. The hope for closure, or perhaps a revelation, persists as the mystery of Michael Larson continues to echo through the Porcupine Mountain Wilderness State Park, a beautiful yet unforgiving landscape that holds within it a story yet to be fully told. In the sprawling expanse of the Grand Canyon National Park, a mystery unfolded that has echoed through the canyons and captivated the hearts of many. This is the story of Floyd E. Roberts III, a Florida teacher whose disappearance in June of 2016 during a hiking excursion remains an unsolved enigma in national park mysteries. Floyd, an experienced hiker and a dedicated teacher, set out with friends for a 9-day hiking trip in the Grand Canyon. Known for his adventurous spirit and love for the outdoors, Floyd eagerly anticipated the journey through the rugged and majestic terrain of one of America's most iconic natural wonders. The group's journey began with enthusiasm as they traversed the challenging trails of the Grand Canyon. However, on June 17th of 2016, the unexpected happened. Floyd, who had been keeping pace with his companions, somehow became separated from the group. His absence was not immediately noticed, but as time passed and he failed to reappear, concern among his friends quickly turned into alarm. Upon realizing Floyd was missing, the group contacted the park authorities, triggering a swift response. park rangers, experienced in search and rescue operation within the vast wilderness of the Grand Canyon, initiated a search. The initial efforts, however, yielded no clues to Floyd's whereabouts. As the news of Floyd's disappearance spread, the search operation expanded. Helicopters took to the skies, offering a bird's-eye view of the sprawling landscape, while trained search dogs scoured the ground below. Volunteers, familiar with the treacherous and unforgiving nature of the canyon, joined the effort, braving steep cliffs, dense underbrush, and harsh elements. Days turned into weeks, and still there was no sign of Floyd. Theories about his disappearance began to circulate. Some speculated that he might have lost his way in the complex networks of trails and ravines. Others pondered the possibility of an accident in the perilous terrain. The lack of concrete evidence and clear clues added layers of complexity to the case, fueling further speculation and intrigue. The impact of Floyd's disappearance reverberated beyond the search parties and rangers. His family, friends, and the wider community felt the weight of his absence. Vigils were held, prayers were offered, and hope was clung to, even as the days turned into months and then years. The investigation into Floyd's disappearance continued, with authorities exploring every lead and revisiting the case periodically. Despite the passage of time, the case remains open, a testament to the enduring hope for answers and resolution. Floyd's story is not just a tale of a missing hiker. It is a narrative that underscores the unpredictability of nature and the importance of safety and preparedness in the wilderness. It serves as a reminder of the risks inherent in exploring such majestic but often unforgiving landscapes such as the Grand Canyon. As we reflect on the mystery of Floyd E. Roberts III, we are reminded of countless other individuals who have vanished in the national parks. Their stories also deserve attention and resolution. Floyd's legacy lives on in the ongoing efforts to bring closure to his family and in the heightened awareness of the need for caution and respect for nature's power. The heart of the Grand Canyon, where the Colorado River carves its way through the ancient rock, the story of Floyd E. Roberts III continues to echo, a reminder of the mysteries that still linger in the wild and the untamed corners of our world. In the rugged and remote landscapes of the San Felipe Desert in Baja California, Mexico, a baffling disappearance occurred that has left many unanswered questions. This is the story of 68-year-old Kat Hammontrey, an experienced hiker and American expat who vanished under mysterious circumstances. On April 11, 2019, Kat, accompanied by her loyal dog Tootsie, her husband, her daughter, and a group of fellow hikers set off into the desert. Their destination was near the Diablo Canyon, a region known for its challenging terrain and breathtaking scenery. Kat, a resident of Mexico for the past 20 years, was no stranger to the area. She often traveled back to Seattle, Washington, to visit friends and family, indicating her deep connection with both her homes. However, just 10 minutes into the hike, the unexpected happened. Kat complained of a foot or ankle injury and decided to take a brief rest while the group continued on. Her husband later expressed his belief that the injury was severe, possibly a broken foot or ankle. Trusting in Kat's familiarity with the area and her resilience, the group left her with Tootsie as they proceeded to the waterfall. Upon their return, they were met with an unsettling scene. Kat was nowhere to be found. Her husband, Warren Sundquist, waited at their car, hoping she had made her way back, but she never appeared. As hours passed with no sign of Kat, her family and friends reported her missing. Despite her extensive knowledge of the area and no apparent signs of distress when left alone, her disappearance was utterly mystifying. A large-scale search operation was launched, involving search and rescue crews, volunteers, and even the Mexican armed forces. Despite these extensive efforts, as of now, no trace of Kat has ever been found. The authorities in San Felipe initially suspected foul play, possibly involving someone from the hiking group. However, after extensive questioning, no charges were ever brought forward. Theories about what happened to Kat were abound. Some speculate that she might have stumbled upon cartel activity and was taken because of what she saw. Others suggest a possible attack by a wild animal, but the first responders noted the absence of any signs of a struggle or blood at the scene. Kat Hamantre's disappearance remains a haunting mystery. Her family continues to seek answers, desperate to understand what happened on that fateful day in the San Felipe Desert. Anyone with information is encouraged to contact the San Felipe Police Department. Kat's story, a blend of adventure and enigma, serves as a reminder of the unpredictability and dangers that can lurk in the wilderness. The disappearance of 28-year-old Michael Allen McKinney in Fairfield Township, Ohio, in May of 2020 is a case that has left many unanswered questions and a community in distress. Michael, who had recently been discharged from a halfway house and was living with his aunt and other family members, was last seen on May 22nd or May 23rd of 2020. Michael had a history of struggling with addiction issues, and shortly before his disappearance, his family suspected that he may have relapsed. Despite these challenges, Michael was determined to turn his life around. He was working 2 jobs at the time of his disappearance and was hopefully about to start a third. On May 22nd of 2020, Michael's aunt noticed that he had packed up all his clothes and left without informing anyone of his whereabouts. This was unusual for Michael, who was known to enjoy hiking and frequenting parks, but typically informed his family of his plans. The only other item missing from his aunt's house, aside from Michael himself, was his brand new car. Nearly 10 days later, on May 30th, 2020, Michael's abandoned car was discovered at a bird sanctuary in Houston Woods State Park. An officer who found the car immediately contacted his family. Following the discovery of his car, Michael's family reported him missing on June 1st of 2020, and the search for him began. Little evidence was recovered from the car or the scene. According to official reports, the only items missing from the car were his wallet and keys. The Butler County Sheriff's Office and the Fairfield Township Police conducted interviews with his family and his friends. His aunt mentioned that she believed Michael had relapsed, and she had seen a sore on his neck and knew he had asked to borrow money from people before he left. Despite extensive interviews with Michael's friends and those closest to him, authorities were unable to generate any new leads. Years later, it was announced that 2 possible persons of interest in Michael's case had passed away, but their names and full details have never been made public. Michael's mother, Yolanda Middleton, expressed her family's confusion and distress to the Journal News, stating, "We have had so many scenarios running through our brains. We are at a loss. It is not like him to do something like this. He would have at least called somebody by now. Things just don't add up. If things were going well, why did he just disappear and not tell anyone? There's no trace of anything. It's like he just disappeared." Michael Allen McKinney is described as a white male with brown hair, brown eyes, standing 5 foot 8 inches tall and weighing 135 pounds. He has a full sleeve of tattoos on both arms, a tattoo on his chest, a circular design on the back of his hand, and several missing teeth. Anyone with information about Michael Allen McKinney or any details regarding his disappearance is urged to contact the Fairfield Township Police Department. His disappearance remains a mystery, leaving his family and community seeking answers and hoping for his safe return. The disappearance of 68-year-old Breck Phelps in the Stanislaus National Forest is a case shrouded in mystery and unanswered questions. On October 2nd, 2016, Breck set out for a fishing trip along the Stanislaus River, a journey from which he never returned. Breck's 2007 Nissan Versa was found parked along Highway 108 near the Donnell Vista Point, a popular trail known for its breathtaking views and rugged terrain. The area around Donnell Point is characterized by its vastness, with dramatic changes in elevation, deep canyons filled with dense foliage, and the cold, fast-flowing waters of the Stanislaus River. It was along this challenging and picturesque trail that Breck intended to fish. When Breck did not return as expected, his friends and family, alarmed by his absence, contacted the Tuolumne County Sheriff's Office. An intensive search operation was launched, involving helicopters, sniffer dogs, and search teams, both on the ground and in the water. Despite these efforts, no trace of Breck was ever found. The search teams combed through the river and other nearby bodies of water, exploring every possible area where Breck might have been. The challenging terrain and vastness of the area made the search operation particularly difficult. The dense forest, the steep canyons, and the river's ledges posed significant obstacles to the search teams. Breck Phelps is described as a white male with gray hair, blue eyes, standing 5 foot 10 inches tall and weighing 175 pounds, and remains missing. This case continues to puzzle both the authorities and those who knew him. The Tuolumne County Sheriff's Office continues to seek information regarding Breck's whereabouts. His story, like many others that involve disappearances in national parks and forests, highlights the need for awareness and preparedness when venturing into such remote and challenging environments. Anyone with information about Breck Phelps or any details regarding his disappearance is urged to contact the Tuolumne County Sheriff's Office. His disappearance remains unsolved and is a reminder of the vast and untamed beauty of our national forests and the mysteries that it holds. The disappearance of Dave Cook in the vast and rugged terrain of the White River National Forest near Aspen, Colorado, is a story that resonates deeply with the outdoor community and those who follow unsolved mysteries. A former Marine and an avid mountaineer, Dave embarked on a solo journey on September 19th, 2016, with the goal of summoning Maroon Bells and Pyramid Peak. This adventure was not just another hike for Dave. It was to be his 47th summit, a milestone that spoke to his deep passion and experience in high-altitude hiking. Dave's preparation for this trip was meticulous, as expected from someone with his background. He was well equipped for the challenges of the hike, carrying the necessary gear and supplies. The Maroon Bells, consisting of two formidable peaks, Maroon Peak and North Maroon Peak, are renowned for their stunning beauty and treacherous conditions. Pyramid Peak, in the same region, shares a similar reputation for its challenging terrain. These peaks, while alluring to mountaineers, have a notorious history, earning the nickname the Deadly Bells due to the numerous accidents and fatalities that have occurred over the years. On the day Dave ventured into the park, records show he arrived around 11 a.m. His plan was to start with North Maroon Peak. Fellow hikers later reported seeing him on South Maroon Peak at approximately 1:40 p.m. This sighting was the first in a series of sparse clues about his whereabouts on that fateful day. Later in the afternoon, between 4 and 6 p.m., a signal from Dave's phone was detected inside the park. However, the exact location of the signal, crucial to pinpointing his last known position, remained elusive to the investigators. The following morning, September 20th, a parking attendant recalled seeing Dave, making this the last confirmed sighting of him. When Dave did not return home as expected, his absence was immediately alarming to his family. His wife, Maureen, described Dave as a devoted and caring family man, unlikely to worry his loved ones without any cause. Recognizing the gravity of the situation, she quickly reported him missing to the park rangers and the Pitkin County Sheriff's Office. The search operation that ensued was both extensive and intensive. It involved multiple agencies, including Mountain Rescue Aspen, known for their expertise in conducting search and rescue operations in these challenging terrains. The search teams employed a variety of resources: helicopters for aerial surveys, ground teams for thorough combing of the area, a plane equipped with advanced imaging technology, and search dogs trained to locate missing people. Despite their efforts, the search yielded no sign of Dave. The operation faced additional challenges due to worsening weather conditions, including heavy snowfall, which eventually led to the suspension of the search. A crucial piece of evidence, or perhaps a red herring, was discovered in Dave's car. His map for Pyramid Peaks was found inside, raising questions about whether he had intended to use it or had simply forgotten it. Notably, Dave had taken his crampons, which are essential for icy conditions, though he did not have microspikes with him. The search efforts were exhaustive, utilizing state-of-the-art technology and extensive manpower, yet they failed to uncover any clues of Dave's whereabouts. In the wake of Dave's mysterious disappearance, his family, spearheaded by Marine, initiated the Dave Gives Back campaign. This campaign was established to support search and rescue teams in Colorado and New Mexico, turning their personal tragedy into a force for good. The campaign aims to ensure that Dave's legacy aids in the safety and rescue of others in the wilderness and helps other families avoid the anguish of uncertainty. Dave Cook, at the time of his disappearance, was 49 years old. He was last seen wearing khaki pants, a long-sleeved black shirt, a blue helmet, and possibly a gray jacket. The mystery of his disappearance in the White River National Forest remains unsolved, a haunting reminder of the unpredictability and inherent dangers of wilderness exploration. Anyone with information about Dave Cook's whereabouts or any details regarding his disappearance are strongly encouraged to contact the Pitkin County Sheriff's Office. His story continues to resonate with those who venture into the wilderness, serving as a reminder of the risks adventurers face in the pursuit of beauty and challenges offered by nature. In the serene yet mysterious expanse of Mammoth Cave National Park in Kentucky, a perplexing story unfolds, one that remains unsolved to this day. It's the story of Randy Rasco, a 44-year-old man whose sudden disappearance left more questions than answers. Up until May of 2015, Randy's life seemed ordinary and uneventful. He was an avid outdoorsman, frequently indulging in hunting and fishing. These activities brought him peace and connection with nature. He maintained regular contact with his family, particularly his brother, who lived close to his apartment in Bowling Green. But beneath this veneer of normality lay an undercurrent of turmoil. Unexpectedly, Randy's life took a dramatic turn. One day, without any apparent reason, he packed up his belongings, quit his job, and had his mail forwarded to an unknown address. This abrupt change came shortly after a difficult phase in his life, marked by a recent divorce. Concerned and confused, his family filed a missing persons report upon realizing he had fled without a word. For a month, Randy Rasco's family was engulfed in worry and uncertainty. Then, in June, they received news that Randy was found safe in Washington state. However, the relief was short-lived. Randy, seeking solitude, made it clear that he didn't wish to communicate with his family. Respecting his wishes, they assured him of their unconditional support whenever he decided to return. Over the next few months, Randy embarked on a solitary journey across the United States, maintaining his privacy and keeping his whereabouts a secret. His family, though worried, hoped he was finding the solace he sought. The mystery deepened when Mammoth Cave National Park rangers discovered Randy's car abandoned in the park's parking lot. This second disappearance reignited the family's fears and uncertainties. They clung to hope for a positive outcome, but Randy remains missing. The search for Randy was extensive. Search crews, volunteers, and the Civil Air Patrol combed through the park's vast 53,000 acres. Despite their exhaustive efforts and multiple searches, no trace of Randy was found. His car, left in the parking lot, stood as the sole clue to his mysterious disappearance. Randy Rasco is described as a white male, 6 foot 2 inches tall, with black hair, hazel eyes, and a slim, athletic build. His story is a reminder of the delicate balance between seeking solitude and the unforeseen risks that can accompany a journey in the wilderness. If you have any information of Randy's whereabouts or any clues related to his disappearance, please contact the Mammoth Cave National Park. His family and the community continue to hope for answers, holding on to the belief that one day the mystery of Randy Rasco's disappearance will be solved. In the dense forests of Gifford-Pinchot National Park, a baffling disappearance occurred that continues to perplex and sadden those who hear of it. This is the story of 19-year-old Maureen Kelly, a young woman whose quest for a spiritual awakening led to an enduring mystery. On June 9th, 2013, Maureen, filled with youthful enthusiasm and a longing for spiritual exploration, arrived at Canyon Creek Campground with a group of friends. They were there to enjoy the tranquility and beauty of the national park, a perfect setting for camping and bonding. The day unfolded with laughter and shared moments, but as evening approached, Maureen made a startling announcement. Declaring her intention to embark on a spiritual adventure, Maureen shed all her clothes, abandoning the comfort and protection they offered. She stepped into the wilderness barefoot, carrying nothing but a bum bag, believed to contain only a pocket knife, a compass, and a few matches. This minimal preparation was a stark contrast to the dense and unpredictable terrain of the national park. Maureen ventured into the woods, leaving her friends behind without specifying the duration or direction of her journey. Her friends, initially unconcerned, expected her return within a few hours, eager to hear about her experience. However, as darkness fell upon the campground and Maureen failed to return, concern quickly escalated. Realizing the gravity of the situation, her friends contacted the Skamania County Sheriff's Office, and Maureen was officially reported missing. The urgency was heightened by the fact that she had ventured into the wilderness without clothing, shoes, food, or water. A massive search and rescue operation was launched. Volunteers, park rangers, and search coordinators scoured the park, desperate for any sign of Maureen. Despite their exhaustive efforts, she seemed to have vanished without a trace. The only clue that emerged was a set of footprints matching Maureen's size, found by the search teams. This discovery led to the deployment of sniffer dogs, but all their efforts were hampered by rainfall, erasing any potential scent trail. The footprints suggested that Maureen might have headed north towards Forest Service Road 54, but the trail dissipated where the road began. Complicating the search further, severe weather conditions initially prevented helicopters from joining the search effort. As of today, the mystery of Maureen Kelly's disappearance remains unsolved. The Skamania County Sheriff's Office continues to seek answers, but the trail has grown cold. Some speculate that Maureen succumbed to the harsh elements of the wilderness that night, but without any definitive evidence or the discovery of her body, her fate remains unknown. Maureen is described as an Asian Pacific Islander with black hair, brown eyes, standing about 5'7" and weighing between 150 and 160 pounds. The case of Maureen Kelly stands as a haunting reminder of the unpredictability of nature and the inherent risk spiritual enlightening takes in the untamed realms. Anyone with information about Maureen Kelly's whereabouts or any details regarding her disappearance is urged to contact the Skamania County Sheriff's Office. Her story, a blend of youthful adventure and unsolved mystery, continues to echo through the forests of the national park, a testament to the mystery that nature still holds. The disappearance of 41-year-old Gerald Michael Myers on Mount McKinley, also known as Mount Denali, in May of 2009, is a case that has left a profound impact on the mountaineering community and those who knew him. Gerald, a respected employee at the Arapahoe Chiropractic and Acupuncture Center in Centennial, Colorado, was not only accomplished in his professional life, having obtained a degree in neuroscience from the University of Pittsburgh, but also had a distinguished background in the United States Army. His military experience, coupled with his outdoor skills, gave his friends and colleagues confidence when he announced his plans to hike through Denali National Park and ascend Mount Denali. In May of 2009, Gerald embarked on what he described as the trip of a lifetime, flying from Colorado to Alaska to pursue his mountaineering dream. On May 19th of 2009, Gerald began his ascent up Mount McKinley. However, reports about the last time Gerald was seen are conflicting, with some sources stating that it was either May 19th, 20th, or 21st. Other hikers in the park recalled seeing Gerald along the West Buttress route on May 19th or May 20th. Adding to the mystery, Gerald had left a note for his hiking partners, stating he would continue as far as I can safely. Gerald was equipped with a GPS locator beacon, and the last confirmed ping was made at the 17,200-foot camp. When he failed to return to the campsite, his companions realized something was wrong. Despite his Army background and outdoor experience, the extreme conditions at such high altitudes raised immediate concern. The National Park Service was alerted to Gerald's disappearance, and a large-scale search operation was launched. This included a U.S. Army Chinook helicopter and a smaller plane equipped to collect real-time images of the mountain. Despite the extensive search efforts, no sign of Gerald was ever found. The harsh conditions on Mount McKinley forced searchers to postpone their efforts. At the time of his disappearance, Gerald was not carrying any essential survival gear, such as a sleeping bag, stove, or extra clothing. Investigators believe he became likely injured or fell into a crevasse. Gerald Michael Myers is described as a white male with auburn or blonde hair, hazel eyes, standing 5 foot 10 inches tall and weighing 155 pounds. He was last seen wearing a gray day pack with orange skis, a red jacket, black pants, and orange ski boots. The disappearance of Gerald Myers on Mount McKinley is a stark reminder of the unpredictability and often perilous nature of high-altitude mountaineering. It underscores the importance of preparation and caution, even for the most experienced climbers. Anyone with information about Gerald Michael Myers or any details regarding his disappearance is urged to contact the Alaska State Troopers. His story continues to resonate with the mountaineering community and serves as a reminder of the risks associated with pursuing one's passions in life and of nature's formidable challenges. In the sprawling wilderness of Yosemite National Park, a perplexing disappearance occurred that has baffled both authorities and the public. This is the story of Max Schweitzer, whose vanishing in the park adds to the growing list of mysterious cases in the United States National Park System. Max Schweitzer, a 41-year-old man with a background shrouded in intrigue, entered Yosemite National Park around January 1st to the 5th. He left his car in the Camp 4 car park, a popular spot for hikers and climbers. On January 5th, the rental company reported the car overdue, and it was subsequently found in the park, but Max was nowhere to be seen. Max's LinkedIn profile listed him as an analyst at the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, a title that adds layers of mystery to his disappearance. Prior to this, he worked for the San Francisco Civil Service Commission as a transit planner, a position that ended in 2004. The reason for his departure from this role remains unclear. In 2005, Max faced federal charges for vandalizing an FBI lobby in San Francisco. According to a San Francisco Gate news article, he caused significant damage, allegedly throwing a plant, breaking chairs, and damaging glass display cases, resulting in $7,491 in damage. The motive behind this act, whether it was a denied meeting with the FBI agents or a sudden outburst, is still unknown. Further adding to the mystery, in 2016, Max was arrested again under charges including threats of violence and threatening state officials or judges. These incidents paint a picture of a man possibly struggling with personal demons or caught in a web of complex circumstances. Theories about Max's disappearance abound on forums like Web Sleuths, ranging from speculation about his mental state to suggestions of government involvement. Some even wonder if his ties to Homeland Security were genuine or a complete fabrication. The Yosemite National Park Service issued a tweet on January 6th of 2018, alerting the public to Max's disappearance. Despite this, details about the search efforts and any leads are incredibly sparse. The tweet described Max as a 41-year-old white male with brown hair, blue eyes, 5'8", and weighing 185 pounds, but offered little else in terms of direction or gear. As of now, Max Schweitzer remains missing. The mystery deepens with his possible ties to Homeland Security. Was his disappearance a result of a secret mission, or is there a more ominous explanation? The lack of concrete information and the strange circumstances surrounding his life and his disappearance only fuel more questions and theories. Anyone with information about Max's whereabouts or any details regarding his disappearance is urged to contact the Yosemite National Park Service. His case remains one of the most intriguing and confusing in the history of disappearances in the United States national parks. The mysterious disappearance of 46-year-old David Michael Burney in 2007 is a case that continues to perplex and concern both his family and investigators. On June 29th of 2007, David purchased a red Toyota Tercel with the intentions of driving to Georgia to reunite with his two daughters. Tragically, he never reached his destination, leading his worried daughters to report him missing. In cases like David's, where there is limited information, investigators and family members often rely on piecing together the last known moments and any potential clues left behind. The next significant development in David's case came late in August of 2007, when his newly acquired red Toyota Tercel was discovered abandoned in Bankhead Forest off County Road B15 in Winston County, Alabama. The Coleman County Sheriff's Office, in their efforts to trace David's steps, learned that he was last seen at the Jet Prep gas station on Highway 157 in Battleground, Alabama, on the day of his disappearance. After this sighting, David seemingly vanished without a trace. Local reports suggest that the car might have been in that location since July 7th, but it wasn't reported or properly noted until over a month later. The discovery of the car raised more questions than answers. According to the Charlie Project, the red Toyota Tercel was out of gas and its battery was missing. However, there were no signs of a struggle or any clear indication of what might have happened to David. David's disappearance left behind a family in distress, including 6 children and other relatives. They firmly believed that David would not have voluntarily disappeared and suspected foul play, citing that he had enemies who might have wished him harm. David Michael Burney was last seen at the Jet Pep gas station on Highway 157 in Battleground, Alabama. He is described as a white male with graying brown hair, brown hazel eyes, standing between 5'4" and 5'7", and weighing between 155 to 165 pounds. David is distinguishable by several tattoos on his right arm, a scar on the same arm, and a brown birthmark under his chin, and also several missing teeth. The case of David Michael Burney remains unsolved, leaving his family and investigators searching for answers. Anyone with information about his whereabouts or any details regarding his disappearance is urged to contact the Coleman County Sheriff's Office. His disappearance is a stark reminder of the many unsolved cases that continue to haunt families and communities across the country and in the vast expanses of our national parks. The disappearance of 60-year-old Maria Trice in the Angeles National Forest in Los Angeles, California, is a case that has puzzled investigators and deeply affected the community. On February 13th of 2021, Maria embarked on a hike along the Heaton Flatiron Trail near Iron Mountain, a journey from which she never returned. Witnesses recall seeing Maria on the trail between 11:30 and 12:15 p.m. After that, she simply vanished, leaving no trace behind. The Sierra Madre Search and Rescue Team reported that Maria had been hiking with a meetup group. It appears that she became separated from the group when they reached the summit, and she chose to continue on alone. In their press release, they highlighted the challenging nature of the Iron Mountain hike. The trailhead at Heaton Flat starts at an elevation of 2,000 feet and climbs about 7 miles up to the peak at 8,000 feet. The trail is known for being rough and rugged, presenting a significant challenge even to experienced hikers. Maria was officially reported missing on February 17th of 2021 when she failed to show up for work. This prompted the Sierra Madre Search and Rescue Team, the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department, and other agencies to become involved in the search. The search operation was extensive, involving both air and land efforts. Despite these exhaustive efforts, no sign of Maria has ever been found. Investigators believe that Maria may have become injured or lost while on the trail. They have stressed the importance of sticking to routes and trails that are within one's physical skill set. The Angeles National Forest, with its vast and sometimes treacherous terrain, can be unforgiving, even for the most seasoned hikers. Maria Tice is described as an Asian female with brown hair, brown eyes, standing 5 foot 4 inches tall and weighing about 130 pounds. She was possibly last seen wearing a light lavender shirt, a green crew neck top, black tights, a black puffer jacket, and carrying a backpack with hiking poles. The case of Maria Tice is a sobering reminder of the risks associated with hiking in remote and rugged areas. It underscores the need for preparation, caution, and the importance of never hiking alone in such a challenging environment. Anyone with information about Maria Tice or any details regarding her disappearance is urged to contact the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. Her disappearance remains a mystery, leaving her family and the hiking community seeking answers and hoping for her safe return. The disappearance of 10-year-old Damian McKenzie in September of 1974 is a case that has haunted the Australian community and intrigued those who delve into the mysteries of the unexplained. Damian's vanishing from a youth camp in the mountains of Victoria, Australia, remains one of the most baffling missing person cases in the country's history. Damian, from the Cobden area in western Victoria, was attending a 5-day youth camp organized by the Young Australia League. The camp, located near Victoria Falls, was attended by at least 40 children. It was designed to be an enjoyable outdoor experience, with activities like hiking and exploring the wilderness. On September 4th of 1974, the group embarked on an excursion to Stevenson Falls at Marysville, Victoria. The hike to the falls involved navigating a winding trail up the mountain, a journey that was both exciting and challenging for the youth campers. The camp was reputed to be well supervised, with experienced school teachers and chaperones overseeing the activities. The trip to Stevenson Falls was initially planned as a night excursion to view the falls under floodlights. However, due to faulty floodlights on their first attempt on September 2nd, the group returned during the day. The children and chaperones stayed together throughout the hike, with everyone within sight of each other. The mystery unfolded around 11:30 a.m. when Damian, who was only a few steps ahead of the group, rounded a bend on the trail and disappeared from view. In less than a minute, when the rest of the group followed around the bend, Damian was nowhere to be seen. Despite immediate searches by the supervisors and subsequent calls for help, Damian did not respond. A massive search operation was launched, involving over 300 people from various agencies, including the police, the Federation of Victorian Walking Club Search and Rescue Section, the Forestry Commission of Victoria, the Red Cross, local volunteers, aircraft, and tracking dogs. The search covered the rugged and dense wilderness around the area, but no trace of Damian was found. The operation was eventually called off due to bad weather. One of the most perplexing aspects of the search was the tracking dog's inability to pick up any scent of Damian. In some accounts, it was reported that footprints believed to be Damian's were found leading to the edge of the waterfall, then stopping abruptly. However, this claim is disputed, with some searchers stating that no such footprints were found, and others unable to confirm if the footprints belonged to Damian or not. Theories about Damian's disappearance range from him getting lost in the dense bushland to falling into the river or an uncovered mine shaft. Some even speculate about the possibility of abduction, though this is considered unlikely due to the terrain and the brief time he was out of sight. Nearly 5 decades later, Damian McKenzie's disappearance remains unsolved, leaving a gap in the hearts of his family and the community. His case is a stark reminder of the mysteries that can occur in the wilderness and the importance of vigilance and safety during outdoor activities. Anyone with information about Damian McKenzie's disappearance or any details that could shed light on this mystery is encouraged to contact the relevant authorities. Damian's story continues to be a reminder of the enduring mysteries that surround us and the need for continued efforts to solve them. In the heart of the Great Sand Dunes National Park and Preserve, a tale of resilience and mystery begins with Brian Skolinski, a 40-year-old man at a pivotal moment in his life. Facing a midlife crisis, Brian sought answers and new purpose. He once told CBS Denver, "I was trying to find motivation for the next 40 years of my life. I wanted to exert myself. I didn't want to go to the extremes that I did." On February 11th, Brian embarked on what he hoped would be a transformative journey. He set out for the Cold Creek Drainage, a route that promised a 10-mile hike around the park's perimeter. This path, lying at the base of Mount Harold, was known for its spectacular views and the solitude that it offered. A perfect setting for Brian to clear his head and reconnect with nature. However, the journey took an unexpected turn. Brian encountered deep snowdrifts, a challenge he hadn't anticipated. Despite the daunting conditions, he pressed on, driven by a determination that, in hindsight, he struggled to explain. 3 feet isn't going to stop me. 4 feet isn't going to stop me. I'm going to keep going, he recalled in his interview. This decision nearly cost Brian his life. Stranded and ill-prepared, with only 2 small meals meant for a day and inadequate shelter, he faced the harsh realities of survival. As the second day dawned, Brian, battling freezing temperatures and snow, realized the gravity of his situation. By the 3rd day, his boots were frozen, forcing him to cut out the laces and tongues to continue walking. With no food, water, or warm clothes, his boots damaged, Brian wandered, eventually getting lost in the sand dunes. Meanwhile, his absence didn't go unnoticed. By the 5th day, park rangers, concerned about his car parked for an unusually long time, initiated a search. Rangers, volunteers, horse and aerial units, and even sniffer dogs were deployed, but Brian was nowhere to be found. As the 5th day neared its end, hope was fading, but then a miraculous turn of events occurred. Brian stumbled upon a road and was discovered by rescuers. He was escorted to the Great Sand Dunes Visitor Center, where he saw his own picture on a bulletin board and a map tracking the search efforts. "I didn't even think people were looking for me," he admitted. Brian had survived 5 days in below freezing temperatures, without food, water, or shelter. Suffering from frostbite, he refused medical treatment, asking only for assistance to return home to New York. But Brian's story didn't end there. In early May of 2017, he once again ventured into the Great Sand Dunes National Park and Preserve and disappeared once again. Park rangers found his car in a picnic area and launched a search. Unfortunately, this time, the outcome was tragic. On June 28, 2017, Brian's body was discovered, covered deep in snow. The story of Brian Skolinski, a man seeking purpose and pushing his limits, serves as a haunting reminder of the unpredictable power of nature and the thin line between seeking adventure and courting danger. In the serene yet imposing landscapes of the Austrian Alps, perched at an altitude of 10,000 feet, lies a less known, almost enigmatic tourist destination. This place, accessible only via a gondola or a challenging hike for the particularly determined, strikes an awe-inspiring balance between its breathtaking beauty and subtle yet ever-present reminders of its potential perils. Today, I bring you a harrowing story from this remote location, one that is shadowed with mystery. On a crisp morning of August 9th, 1989, Duncan McPherson, a 23-year-old Canadian, parked his little red car in a valley, blanketed by the lush greenery of Austria. Duncan, a once promising hockey star destined for greatness, was selected as a first-round draft pick by the New York Islanders in 1984. But the tides of fortune didn't turn in his favor, and despite his undeniable talent and athleticism, he never secured a spot on the Islanders' main roster. Realizing that his professional hockey career might be drawing to a close, Duncan, instead of succumbing to frustration, decided to pivot towards a coaching role. In 1989, he made a commitment to coach a small-time professional hockey team in Scotland. Before embarking on this new journey, Duncan decided to press pause and take a much-needed break. He planned an extensive European vacation, a breather from his life dedicated to hockey, and the Austrian Alps were first on his list. Upon reaching the gondola station near the Stubai Glacier Ski Resort, Duncan purchased a ticket and embarked on a journey upward. The resort was unique, not just for its remote location, accessible only by the gondola or a strenuous hike, but also for its glacier slopes that allowed skiing year-round. The resort used heavy machinery to convert the thick ice into a skiable powder, a feature that distinguished it from other ski resorts. Duncan, eager to learn snowboarding, rented his gear and soon met his instructor. The instructor, quickly recognizing Duncan's natural athletic ability, complimented his rapid progress. They practiced the basics on flat ground before ascending the glacier. However, the weather had other plans. As their lesson progressed, rain began to pour, eventually giving way to a dense fog covering the mountainside. The instructor noticed Duncan's soaked attire and offered to dry his sweater in his office. Duncan, in the meantime, purchased a new sweater from the resort's gift shop. After a lunch filled with lighthearted conversation and shared anticipation for the next day's lesson, the instructor encouraged Duncan to practice solo, given his commendable progress. The next day, the instructor arrived early, coffee in hand, expecting Duncan to join him. However, Duncan was nowhere to be found. Back in Canada, Duncan's parents received an alarming phone call from the Dundee Tigers, the Scottish hockey team awaiting Duncan's arrival. Duncan had not shown up for his first day of work. Alarmed and confused, Duncan's parents filed a missing person report and embarked on a daunting journey across Europe in search of their son. For weeks, they tirelessly distributed flyers and followed every possible lead. About a month into their search, their efforts led to a breakthrough. A news segment in Austria mentioned a little red car, the same car Duncan was driving, found abandoned near the Stubai Glacier gondola. The police, now fully engaged, organized a large-scale search operation. In an unexpected twist of fate, Duncan's parents encountered his snowboard instructor at a local hotel. The instructor, recognizing Duncan from the flyer, recounted their last meeting, but could offer no clue about his whereabouts after they had their lunch. The search party scoured the mountain's terrain, delving into every crevasse and shadow the glacier offered, but to no avail. Duncan's parents continued their search for 14 years, never losing hope, always returning to the glacier, hoping for some clue and some closure. Fast forward to July of 2003. A ski resort employee, riding the tow rope, spotted a bright yellow object on the slope. Initially mistaken for trash, this turned out to be Duncan's jacket, and beneath it, preserved in the ice, lay Duncan's body, still looking like the 23-year-old who vanished all those years ago. The discovery was gruesome. Duncan's body showed signs of being mutilated, likely by a snowcat tractor that's used to groom the slopes. The prevailing theory, pieced together from the evidence available, suggests that Duncan, after his lunch with the instructor, ventured out for a solo run. In the dense fog, he likely took a fall, breaking his leg. Unable to move and invisible in the fog, Duncan lay helpless on the slope. At the same time, a snowcat tractor was out grooming the ice. Due to the reduced visibility, the driver, unaware, ran over Duncan. Panicked and fearing repercussions, the driver hid Duncan's body in a deep crevasse, an act of desperation that locked the truth in the ice for over a decade. The theory further suggests that in a state of shock and fear, the snowcat driver, after accidentally mutilating Duncan with the tractor's rotating blades, made a fateful decision. Instead of seeking help, the driver, shrouded in anonymity provided by the fog, decided to conceal the accident. Duncan, who was possibly still alive, albeit severely injured, was tied up and dragged off the slope to a secluded area known for its deep crevasses. The driver disposed of Duncan's body, along with his severed arm and leg, into one of the deep crevasses. To erase any traces, the driver used the snowcat to pack and smooth over the ice, effectively burying Duncan under a frozen shroud. For 14 years, Duncan's fate remained a mystery, his story becoming a whispered legend among the locals and staff at the glacier resort. His parents, fueled by a relentless quest for answers, returned to the Alps year after year. They scoured every part of the mountain, got to know every trail, every staff member, and every possible hideaway, yet they found nothing. The discovery in 2003 was both a closure and a new source of agony for Duncan's family. The well-preserved state of his body was a stark reminder of their loss, as if time had stood still for Duncan while the world had moved on. The mutilated condition of his body and snowboard pointed to a chilling narrative, one that contradicted the initial assumption of a simple disappearance. Investigation into the snowcat driver who might have been responsible hit a dead end. The statute of limitations had expired, with no concrete evidence pointing to a specific individual. The case grew cold. No one at the resort came forward with information, and the identity of the person responsible for Duncan's tragic end remains unknown. Duncan's story is a haunting reminder of the unpredictability and dangers that can lurk in nature's most beautiful settings. It serves as a cautionary tale, emphasizing the need for vigilance and preparedness in the face of nature's whims. His parents, though heartbroken, found some solace in finally knowing what happened to their son, but the unanswered questions and the absence of justice leave a lingering sense of injustice. The Austrian Alps, with their breaking vistas and serene landscapes, continue to attract visitors from around the world. But for those who know the story of Duncan McPherson, the mountain also holds a somber tale, a tale of adventure turned tragedy, and a family's unwavering search for the truth amidst the frozen peaks. Throughout NBA history, a prevailing misconception has persisted, suggesting that the majority of NBA players have had an easy journey. However, this notion is far from accurate. Despite the tantalizing potential for fame and fortune, the life of a professional NBA player is arduous, marked by significant sacrifices and relentless hard work, often yielding limited rewards. While it is true that some players have achieved the pinnacle of success, it is more typical for athletes to encounter hardships and descend into personal struggles. Seldom do we hear about professional athletes whose challenges lead them to make the ultimate sacrifice. One such athlete was Brian Williams, who had once been a standout NBA player. Unfortunately, his story took a tragic turn. The date was June 13th, 1997, and the Chicago Bulls had just clinched their 5th NBA championship in 7 years. Their victory is an epic series against the Utah Jazz, complete with 2 last-second game-winning shots and a remarkable performance by Michael Jordan despite battling the flu in Game 5. The team gathered amidst a throng of 24,000 jubilant fans. Michael Jordan, with a look of satisfaction on his face, stood at the center of the festivities. To his left was Scottie Pippen, and to his right stood Brian Williams, the Bulls' 6'10" forward. This championship marked a pinnacle in Williams' career, but one wouldn't discern it from his demeanor. Despite the significance of the moment, the 28-year-old appeared distant and seemed almost lethargic. However, a closer examination revealed that behind his pale green eyes lay a harrowing narrative involving love, deception, and tragically, loss. Brian Carson Williams entered the world in Fresno, California on April 6, 1969, as the second and youngest son of Patricia Phillips and Eugene Williams. Brian seemed destined for success, given their father's history as a former soul singer for the Platters, a renowned American vocal group formed in 1952. In 1970, the R&B group discovered Eugene at a nightclub, leading to the family embarking on a journey that would take them around the world with the Platters. However, from the early days of his childhood, it was evident that the family's close-knit bond was headed for a tumultuous demise. This prophecy materialized in 1970 when his parents, his father and mother, underwent a divorce, leaving the children without a paternal figure in their lives. Although their mother eventually remarried, by the time Brian reached the 7th grade, her second marriage was already crumbling. During his formative years, Brian attended Santa Monica Catholic High School in Santa Monica, California, where he excelled as a track runner and an exceptional athlete. However, there was little indication that this 15-year-old would evolve into a prominent basketball star. In fact, he didn't even attempt organized basketball until the 10th grade, when an unexpected growth spurt compelled him to explore a career in the sport. Unlike most aspiring NBA players, Brian harbored no initial passion for basketball. Despite his initial indifference, the left-handed forward displayed remarkable grace on the court. He moved like a point guard, effortlessly executing baseline jump hooks and exhibiting a smooth touch. He glided across the court, displaying his exceptional skills as an outlet passer and a trailer on fast breaks. At times, he showcased his athletic prowess, becoming an invaluable asset to his team. His abilities made him an ideal candidate for success, and he only continued to improve with each game.
Points, and this team seems like you guys are coming on real strong now towards the end of the season, aren't you?
Yes, we are. At the beginning of the year, we weren't doing so. We weren't playing together. Now we're really playing as a team. We're looking good.
After completing his time at Santa Monica, Brian embarked on his freshman year at the University of Maryland, standing a towering 6'9" tall. Here, he joined the Maryland Terrapins, earning the title of Rookie of the Year for his outstanding performance. Before long, he transferred to the University of Arizona, where he truly began to shine. In his first season in Tucson, he averaged 10.6 points, 5.7 rebounds, and 0.4 assists, followed by a second season, where he recorded 14 points, 7.8 rebounds, and 0.6 assists per game. These achievements highlighted Brian's undeniable talent on the basketball court. As he continued to excel, Brian Williams, at the age of 21, entered the 1991 NBA Draft, ultimately being selected as the 10th overall pick in the first round by the Orlando Magic.
10th pick in the 1991 NBA Draft, the Orlando Magic selects Brian Williams from the University of Arizona. Brian Williams, 6'9½", 240 pounds, played his high school basketball at Santa Monica, California. He's 22 years old, and his father, as you pointed out to me today, is also famous for Maryland players.
Right, well, you know, he started out at Maryland, and he was successful early. What you must see from him is consistency. He has a very soft shot, a low power game, plays with a great deal of emotion.
After years of unwavering dedication and hard work, Brian Williams finally achieved his dream of making it to the NBA. However, unlike most players, his entry into the NBA wasn't the pinnacle of his life. It turned out to be a significant low point. Brian's sentiments were less than positive as he expressed, "I'm going to the bench. Never really a good feeling. I just go down there and work out with the team, the staff, and the management. The owners are good people, and the team I'm playing with seems focused and determined. They appear to be on an upward trajectory, and I'm glad to be a part of it." While Brian initially excelled with the Orlando Magic, his lack of passion for the game and personal troubles began to overshadow his on-court success. During the 92-93 season, he played only 21 games, and he was diagnosed with clinical depression, making him one of the first publicly recognized instances of mental health issues in the NBA. His struggle with depression had a noticeable impact on his performance. Initially, his behavior became unpredictable during practices, including passing out while guarding teammates and being involved in a car accident. He also admitted to a suicide attempt where he ingested 15 sleeping pills. His mother even suggested that there may have been a second attempt. Brian Williams attributed all of his mental health issues to his unhappiness in Orlando. Following his diagnosis and struggles, Brian was placed on the injured reserve list. However, in the 1993 season, he made a pivotal decision to leave the Orlando Magic and join the Denver Nuggets, where he played alongside NBA legend Dikembe Mutombo. During this stint, he played a career-high 80 games and averaged 8 points per game. In 1995, Brian moved to the LA Clippers, where he played 65 games and averaged an impressive 15.8 points per game. Contract disputes initially led him to considering sitting out the remainder of the season. However, the Chicago Bulls, led by head coach Phil Jackson, reached out to him. Entering the 1997 season, the Bulls were the reigning NBA champions, with the return of Michael Jordan from his brief retirement. The team, having previously won 72 games in a season, signed Brian as a free agent just 9 games before the regular season's conclusion. Michael Jordan, upon his arrival, motivated and pushed Brian Williams to get in shape, maximize his talent, and develop a genuine passion for the game. Brian ultimately embraced the challenge and seamlessly integrated into the new roster. His significant playing time off the bench during the Eastern Conference semifinals against the Atlanta Hawks proved to be a pivotal move, as he delivered an outstanding performance throughout the series. This included scoring 14 points in Game 3 and achieving a double-double with 12 points and 10 rebounds in the series-clinching Game 5. On June 13, 1997, in a highly anticipated NBA Finals matchup against the rival Utah Jazz, Brian continued to play a crucial role in the Bulls' pursuit of their 5th NBA title in 7 years. His contributions were instrumental in the franchise's successful championship run. Throughout his tenure with the Chicago Bulls, Brian displayed remarkable talent and untapped potential. To this day, many of the NBA star's family and friends assert that this period marked the only time in his life when he was experiencing genuine happiness.
Would you like to be a member of the Chicago Bulls for only a month? And earn yourself a position to play in the championships and win a world championship ring? Well, I'll tell you what, that's exactly what Brian Williams did.
This means the world to me. I can't thank you all enough for embracing me, the coaches, the players, the whole organization. Thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Despite his undeniable talent, Brian's time with the Bulls was relatively short-lived. He struggled with certain deficiencies on the court, and his erratic behavior became increasingly perplexing. This was exemplified when he attempted to open the emergency exit hatch of the team's charter jet while cruising at 30,000 feet, an act that could have resulted in a catastrophe. Consequently, he was seen as a liability, both on and off the court. Brian Williams would eventually find a new home when he signed an astonishing 7-year, $50 million contract with the Detroit Pistons. This raised eyebrows considering his inconsistent performance. Nevertheless, as the starting center for the 1998 Detroit Pistons, Brian, now known as Bison Daly in honor of his Cherokee and African ancestry, averaged 16.2 points and 8.9 rebounds per game. Subsequently, after participating in just 49 games during the 1998 NBA lockout season, Bison Daly, despite being in the prime of his career and still having a substantial amount of money remaining on his contract, made a bewildering announcement: his sudden retirement. He had been the Pistons' highest paid player, with over $36 million left on his 5-year contract. Walking away from such a substantial sum of money was unfathomable. Criticism poured in from friends and family, but Bison Daly, despite 2 relatively productive years with the franchise, retired from the game. Money could not provide the stability and fulfillment that he sought. Despite his on-court accomplishments, it became evident that basketball did not bring him the happiness that he yearned for. In the end, Bison Daly's retirement marked a departure from the conventional path of professional basketball players. Unlike many whose careers are cut short due to injuries or lack of skills, he retired to pursue a different kind of spotlight, one far removed from the NBA arenas. It was apparent to many that basketball was not his true passion, but rather the luxuries that it afforded him. Following his retirement, Bison Daly began to chase his genuine desires. He spent months in Beirut, traveled through Europe, ventured through Indonesia and India, and even took up DJing at nightclubs. He met with the Dalai Lama, enjoyed jet skiing in the Mediterranean, ran with the bulls in Spain, rode camels in Cairo, admired Havana's beautiful sunsets, and explored the bazaars of Istanbul. He also pursued his love for music, mastering several instruments like the saxophone, violin, and trumpet, and also earned a pilot's license. This was the life that he had envisioned, a departure from the glitz and pressures of the NBA. Fueled by curiosity, and now financially equipped to do so, Bison Daly was on the path to realizing all of his dreams. Regrettably, the chances of his dreams ever coming to true fruition would soon meet a tragic end. In February of 2000, Bison Dele fulfilled a lifelong dream by learning how to sail. He eventually purchased a 55-foot catamaran boat for $650,000 and named it Hakuna Matata, albeit with a slight misspelling of the Swahili phrase for no worries. Bison then set sail in the South Pacific, exploring destinations like the Solomon Islands, Fiji, Australia, and various points in between. Toward the end of 2001, Bison extended an invitation to his girlfriend, Serena Carlin, to join him on one of his adventures. They had initially crossed paths in 1997, and despite the strong affection they had for each other, Bison's NBA career had made maintaining a relationship challenging. To make up for lost time, Bison decided to embark on the adventure of a lifetime with Serena. Just 5 months later, the Hakuna Matata was poised to set sail from Tahiti with plans to spend time in Hawaii. Unfortunately, their idyllic journey would soon turn into an unthinkable and tragic disaster. While Bison Dele was finding himself and pursuing his dreams, he carried a shadow that had been with him his entire life. A shadow that had consistently asked him for money ever since his NBA success. This shadow was Kevin Williams. In stark contrast to Bison, Kevin was socially awkward, unsympathetic, and with severe asthma, which led him towards books and chess instead of sports, music, and wealth. While Bison had achieved success, Kevin had struggled, moving from one job in town to another, frequently relying on his younger brother's financial support. To the public, Kevin remained known as Bison's brother. Despite Dele's apparent joy after leaving the NBA, Kevin remained deeply attached to his hip. Although the two brothers had distinct personalities and differences, their physical resemblance was striking. Standing 6'8" and weighing 260 pounds, with a broad jaw and short hair, Kevin appeared as a thicker, less attractive version of Bison. Like his brother, Kevin also changed his name to Miles DeBoard. He battled depression, made multiple suicide attempts, grappled with alcoholism, and took significant amounts of steroids, resulting in frequent hospital visits, with Bison often covering his medical bills. Despite their similarities, people invariably gravitated towards Bison, leaving Miles feeling underappreciated and overshadowed by his brother's success. To make matters more complicated, the siblings had never fostered a genuine relationship. Since childhood, they had often been at odds, engaging in continuous arguments and physical fights. The sibling rivalry seemed inescapable and enduring throughout the years. So, when Miles learned about Bison's upcoming trip, he decided to invite himself along in a desperate attempt to mend their strained relationship. This endeavor, however, would ultimately end in failure. On July 6, 2002, Miles unexpectedly showed up at the dock. At the time, he was unemployed, homeless, and had not had any contact with Bison for over 4 years. Bison Dele was understandably skeptical of his intentions, as Miles had had a reputation for only appearing when he needed money. The question arose, did he seek more financial support, or was there another motive behind his sudden appearance? On July 6, 2002, Bison Dele, Serena Carlin, Miles DeBoard, and Bertrand Saldana, the boat's captain, embarked on their voyage to Tahiti, unaware of the tragedy that would await them. Initially intended to last 2 weeks, the trip took an ominous turn. Over the next 2 days, 3 satellite phone calls were made from the boat. On July 8th, the satellite phones on the boat were abruptly turned off, and all communication was ceased. As days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, friends and family grew increasingly concerned about the lack of contact from the couple. On July 20th, the Hakuna Matata finally returned to port in Tahiti, but with a startling twist. Only one person was on board, and that person was Miles DeBoard. The other 3 passengers, including Bison Dele and Serena Carlin, were missing. This marked the beginning of a tragic and perplexing mystery. Investigators immediately suspected foul play, and for several months, Miles was under suspicion. According to him, Bison Dele appeared to be alive, but the whereabouts of the other 2 passengers remain unknown. Nothing seemed to add up, and as investigations continued, the case grew more confounding. Then, on September 5, 2002, a significant development occurred in Phoenix, Arizona. A man claiming to be Bison Dele was found in possession of his passport and checkbook.
He attempted to purchase $152,000 worth of gold, a highly unusual activity considering that Bison had not written a check in over 5 years. Furthermore, Bison was supposed to be on his trip in Tahiti at the time, casting doubt on the situation. Fearing something was amiss, Bison's executive assistant contacted the Phoenix Police Department. This event raised serious questions and intensified the mystery surrounding Bison Dele's disappearance. He was last seen in Tahiti on a 55-foot catamaran. At the age of 33, the former NBA star had vanished, with an ongoing manhunt spanning from the United States to Tahiti. Intriguingly, it was discovered that Miles had been impersonating his brother. The phone number associated with the gold purchase led back to Miles. Police organized a sting operation, resulting in his arrest. After a grueling 5-hour interrogation, he confessed to forging his brother's signature on the bank documents and using Bison's passport, but he was released due to lack of concrete evidence. 2 days later, reports from Tahiti indicated that the boat had been found. Authorities located the Hakuna Matata, which had been registered under a different name, off of the coast of Sahibi. The nameplate had been removed, and there were signs of possible bullet holes. Suspicions grew that Miles might have been responsible for the deaths of the other passengers, and these concerns were substantiated when it was revealed that Miles had left a voicemail for his mother, claiming he would never harm Bison and that he could not endure prison. In response, Miles fled to Mexico, a state that did not have the death penalty. During his time in Mexico, Miles' girlfriend shared information about what had truly transpired. According to Miles, he and Bison got into a heated altercation, resulting in a physical fight. In the struggle, Serena was accidentally struck in the face and killed instantly. The boat's captain wanted to report the death to authorities, but Bison, fearing the consequences, killed the captain by striking him in the head with a wrench in self-defense. Miles claimed that he then entered the cabin, retrieving a gun, and shot Bison out of fear of his own life. In a panic, and without considering the consequences of his actions, he confessed to disposing of all 3 bodies by dumping them overboard using bodybuilding weights. While this was Miles' version of events, authorities found discrepancies in his account. Forensically, his explanation did not align with the evidence. For example, if Bison had indeed struck Serena in the head, causing her skull to hit the side of the boat, there should have been evidence of blood. Additionally, if Bison had used a wrench to strike the boat's captain, the wrench could have been presented as evidence. However, investigators found no blood on the boat, and the boat's dock and flooring remained unchanged, dispelling any notion of an effort to hide evidence. To this day, no official resolution exists. Officially, the case remains open, but there are no new leads. The only version of events the FBI got on record was that of Miles DeBoard, but authorities were never able to locate him. That was until the morning of September 15, 2002 at 11:30 a.m. Mexican police would find a body of a large man on the beach not far from the U.S. border wearing nothing but a pair of white socks. The man would immediately be taken to a nearby hospital. He had no reflexes and his pupils were non-responsive. Injuries on his body suggested that he had not been moving for quite some time. 4 days later, fingerprints confirmed that the unidentified patient was, in fact, 35-year-old Miles DeBoard. The official diagnosis revealed severe brain damage, likely caused by an insulin overdose. By the time he was discovered, Miles had fallen into a coma and required life support. On September 26, 2002, at approximately 10 a.m., he was removed from life support, and the following day, Miles DeBoard, the sole individual with first-hand knowledge of the case, was pronounced dead. To this day, there are various theories and perspectives regarding the events on the ill-fated catamaran. Some speculate that DeBoard killed his brother to be with Serena, while others envision this as an elaborate disappearing act to start a new life. FBI investigators, considering the absence of blood evidence, believe that Miles coerced his brother and the other passengers into water at gunpoint in the deep, shark-infested waters of Tahiti, hundreds of miles from any land. Regrettably, the bodies of Bison Dele and his companions were never recovered and are presumed to have been victims of a probable murder. While many questions persist about the truth of what occurred, it is evident that jealousy and resentment may have played a huge role. For those who remember, not just the events, but the circumstances leading up to them, the saga of Bison Daly and Miles DeBoer remains one of the most peculiar and mysterious tales in NBA history. If you've enjoyed this content from a universe of mystery, please like, share, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of my new and upcoming content.
The search continues for a former Grand Valley State University.
Cullen Finnerty hasn't been seen in a couple days.
Dozens of people and also canine units have just been scouring this area looking for any.
He was last seen about 8:30 that night.
Search is going on right now, but the weather is hampering.
Finnerty was not familiar with the area.
Still unclear what may have happened to Cullen Finnerty. Is possible.
So far, though, search crews have found nothing.
Welcome back to A Universe of Mystery. Today we'll dive into a story of triumph, tragedy, and the enduring mystery of a man named Cullen Finnerty. Cullen was an extraordinary individual, known widely for his prowess on the football field, but today we dive deeper, beyond the accolades, into the heart of his life's journey. Cullen Finnerty was born on August 18, 1982 in Brighton, Michigan. His early life was marked by an unwavering commitment to football. At Brighton High School, he started making a name for himself, winning the Livingston County Football Player of the Year award as a senior and being named to the Ann Arbor News All-Area First Team. Even then, his talent was indisputable. After redshirting his first year at the University of Toledo, Cullen transferred to Grand Valley State University, where he would become a football legend. It was at Grand Valley State that Cullen had led his team to win the NCAA Division II football championships in 2003, 2005, and 2006, becoming one of the most successful quarterbacks in college football history. Each game, each season, further solidified his place in the NCAA Division II history.
On Memorial Day weekend, we always go to Baldwin, which is where my parents have a cabin. And it's just a time to relax, spend time with my side of the family.
In the weeks leading up to their trip, Finnerty complained of headaches and restless sleep. He was using oxycodone for his back pain. On Sunday, May 26, 2013, he asked his wife to drop him off at Bray Creek State Forest Campground for a solo fishing trip. 35 minutes later, at dusk, he called his wife in a panic.
He was disoriented. He didn't know where he was in the woods. He was afraid. I just knew when I spoke with him that something wasn't right.
Cullen Finnerty said he ran into two men on Baldwin River. He thought they might be following him. He was lost, scared, and confused.
So we looked in the woods all evening. It was getting, darker fast. And so I called the police to see if they could help us find him.
At 9:36 p.m., Finnerty made another call that lasted just 20 seconds. He told his brother-in-law, "I don't know where I am." By Monday morning, helicopters hovered above the 16 square miles of forest. Search and rescue dogs searched the brush.
We went over to the campground where he went missing. We fully expected Cullen to show up. He was tough. He could take care of himself, even in the woods.
All of us had our own idea of what he might have done. Maybe he took off and he was hiding, or he was lost and didn't know where he was.
Another night passed with no sign of Finnerty. Grand Valley State University sent a busload of coaches, players, and staff to look for Finnerty. By then, nearly 40 officers and hundreds of volunteers were scouring the woods. After 24 hours, Cullen's friends, family, and searchers became concerned for his safety. While searching the forest, Cullen's friend Kurt Ains, another former GVSU quarterback, and his wife came to a clearing, where Kurt's wife yelled, "Oh my God, I think I found him." The location confused Kurt because of how close the road was to his final location. It was so close he could hear the traffic. This was also only about 4/10 of a mile from where he made his final phone call. He was found face down, still wearing his waders and his fishing vest. Everyone was in disbelief. Police ruled out foul play. The initial autopsy was unable to determine the cause of death. In search of an explanation, the Finnerty family looked back to his past. Finnerty's brain was sent to Boston University to determine whether he suffered from CTE, or chronic traumatic encephalopathy, a degenerative brain disease caused by repeated head trauma, common in football players.
When the results came in, it was found that Finnerty was a stage 2 out of 4 for CTE, so he had the disease for a few years. The disease advanced in his brain even after he had stopped playing. However, family and friends dispute the idea that his brain was damaged or that he had any kind of dementia. No one saw any signs of that, but experts agree that CTE doesn't start with just one hit to the head. However, Finnerty only had one diagnosed concussion in his career. Although it's impossible to connect having stage 2 CTE to the series of circumstances surrounding his death, doctors agree it may have played a role. An updated autopsy determined that Finnerty died from pneumonia and inhaled his own vomit after he became disoriented. Cullen Finnerty's story is one of triumph, resilience, and an indomitable spirit. A man who rose from a small town in Michigan to the heights of college football, leaving an indelible mark on everyone who knew him, watched him, and cheered for him. But Cullen's story is also a reminder of the very human cost of the sports we love, the hidden struggles that often go unnoticed until it's too late. His untimely death sent shockwaves through the world of football and beyond, prompting a deeper examination of the sport's impact on its players. His legacy, however, lives on. Every pass thrown on the football fields of Grand Valley State University echoes with the memory of Cullen's powerful arm. Every victory achieved carries the spirit of the winningest quarterback in NCAA history. The echoes of his name, the memories of his achievements, and the lessons from his life continue to inspire future generations of athletes. His family, his friends, his fans, they remember him not for just the records he set or the games he won, but for the man he was. A devoted son, a loving husband, a fantastic father, a loyal friend. Cullen's wife, Jennifer, and their 2 children lost more than a football legend. They lost a loving husband and father. His parents, Tim and Maureen, lost their son. But in their loss, they have found the strength and the love and support of the community, the fans, and all who knew and admired Cullen. In the face of their grief, they have chosen to honor Cullen's memory by raising awareness about CTE and the risk associated with contact sports. Their courage serves as a beacon for other families navigating similar tragedies. If you've enjoyed this content from Universe of Mystery, please like, share, and subscribe. It really helps the channel. And hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of our new content.